What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Words from the Nerds podcast. We're keeping our word, finally. What can we say? We're nothing if not good for our word, I guess. I couldn't think of anything else. But anyway, we're back with another fantastic episode for you. This is one we've been waiting on for a week now. I remember sitting there almost a week ago, I guess, sitting there while in the group chat with these two losers talking about how they were walking into the theater because they're closer to the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast. And so it was later in the night for them. And so they already were at their theaters watching the movie and I was sitting there waiting. But Deadpool and Wolverine, we're finally here to talk about it. We're big MCU nerds, as most of you constant listeners know. And we are, I think, all very excited to give our thoughts on this. I think for the most part, all of us, other than Aiden, loudmouth Aiden, have kept our thoughts on the movie to ourselves. So it's going to be potentially interesting. But if it goes the way that I think, I don't think it'll be all too much of a differentiating opinion. But who knows? I could be wrong. But I am, of course, joined today by my two lovely co-hosts, Aiden and Benjamin. How are we doing tonight, fellas? Let's start with Ben.
I'm doing very well. I think what you said is a little untrue because I think Aiden has seen my Letterboxd, which is,
Oh, I forgot about that.
on
Yes.
Letterboxd. So he probably saw a little bit of my thoughts there and at least my rating that I gave the film. But I am very excited. I've thought about this movie a lot, and I gotta say that there's been a lot of interesting conversations that I've observed online about this movie, but also even within my own friend group who I went to go and see the film with. Lots of interesting takes on the film. So I will be very curious to kind of dive into this and see where you guys are at, talk through some of those things. And I think the more interesting part of the conversation is kind of us talking about other people's thoughts on the movie, because I think in general we'll actually agree a lot on most things. So I'm very excited though, because we haven't really talked about it and been thinking about it a lot. Definitely gonna watch it again in theaters, hopefully this upcoming weekend. So I'm just excited to talk about it. I think when you think of recent years of Marvel movies that you're excited to talk about, this is up there. This is definitely up there. Ones that I'm just excited to dive in, and there's a lot of fun stuff to discuss.
Yeah, and I
Aiden?
have to say I'd agree. I'm feeling great this.
Great.
I'm feeling great this Wednesday night, and yeah, more than excited to talk about this. I will say, just fair warning, I am still kind of I don't know. I might ramble a bit this episode because I've been going back and forth a lot this past week on how I truly feel about the movie. And I feel like I have close to a definitive answer, but even then it's still kind of I don't know, kind of up in the air. So just a fair warning if I start to let the lips fly a little bit too much. But nonetheless, I'm excited to sit back down with y'all. I actually today was listening to a lot of old episodes after we recorded the other day. I went and listened to that when it dropped because obviously I listen to all our episodes. And I just started listening to other random ones. I started with the trivia one because I was like, oh, this is the most fun. That was one of the most fun episodes we had. And I was just bouncing around everywhere. The Flash episode, like I texted y'all earlier. The Flash episode, all types of stuff. And I landed on our Fantastic Four casting news, our Deadpool 3. We grouped it in with Deadpool 3 trailer and X-Men 97 trailer. And so we talked about the movie a little bit there. We never did a full episode on it, but it was funny to see how excited we were for the movie then and how badass the trailer looked, and to see that it still lived up to the hype. And even coming out of the theater, that I feel even more those feelings that I talked about watching the trailer and talking about the movie with y'all 6 months-ish ago. And so, yeah, I'm very excited to finally get into it. It's crazy that we're even sitting in the theater waiting for the movie to come on. I was like, dude, it's fucking crazy that we're here. I was so excited. I was feeling up there with No Way Home levels excitement when the title card started playing. So to be able to sit down and talk about it. I'm glad that the pod has survived this long to where we can. So, yeah,
I've got a very important question before we like really dive into it. Are we gonna give some like general thoughts and then just go like full spoilers after that?
Yeah, I feel like we can go like Charlie, Ben, me, and then just quick general thoughts, and then we can dive fully in. I forgot to bring up all the what do you call it? Rotten Tomatoes and whatnot. And so, but I mean, if you're sitting here listening to this, you know what the movie is. You know what you're getting into. You've probably already seen it, or you've seen everybody online talk about it. So I don't really have to introduce the movie, but I will say 85% critic score, 90% audience score. That is certified fresh. Has the same critic score as has the exact same critic and audience score as the first Deadpool movie. So that's interesting. But our newest MCU film, our first Fox character centered anything,
and the
maybe
only
besides
MCU film of the year, unfortunately.
Besides X-Men,
or fortunately, depending on who you are and what you're looking for from
At least
the MCU.
we get
currently.
Agatha, you know.
Oh,
anyways, let's
yippee.
but yeah, I'll just there's Deadpool and Wolverine's brief intro as if it needed one. But yeah, Charlie, we can kick things off with you if you'd like on your just general spoiler-free thoughts of the movie.
Yeah, just a little bit more, a couple more tidbits on the movie. Deadpool and Wolverine, the budgets for the film was around $200 million. So, I mean, that's kind of
honestly relatively cheap.
Yeah, consider for some MCU movies, but I think that's still relatively high for some of the other like their more recent entries into the franchise. Because I mean, surprisingly, like I will admit, I do expect most of the films to cross 200 million budget wise, for the most part. And I'm curious to see what the final number for Captain America: Brave New World will be whenever that ends up coming out. But that's a totally different movie. But yeah, I think so. There's I'm not going to look up the numbers for the other movies currently, but I think like it's around the same levels of, I believe, like No Way Home. I think No Way Home was probably a bit more expensive than this, but that's okay, I guess, for them a little bit, because this movie so far, just opening weekend, made almost $500 million.
I think
just the opening weekend for a rated R movie. That is absolutely insane.
Well, I was gonna say, like, for the budget, that $200 million for an R-rated movie is pretty high. Not like for a typical superhero movie, that's, you know, pretty expected. That's like normal. But like R-rated superhero movies, that, I mean, they're not as popular, obviously. Like, more recent years have really brought them up in popularity, but like R-rated movies in general just don't get the same budget because you don't see the same return. But clearly they knew to invest some money into this one, and I mean, it's going to become the highest grossing R-rated movie probably within 2 weekends. Like it's going to pass it very, very easily.
Currently, it is sitting at around 550 million, according to Forbes.com. Currently, it's making about $50 million for its weekday runs. But we have the second weekend coming up right now. So I'm sure this next weekend box office run will be another crazy 100 million, 200 million or something. We'll see. I'm interested to see what the drop off will be, because I know 50% or 50% is usually a pretty good drop off. So I'm excited to see how much it'll be. But
they real quick, sorry, I just want to say, Discussing Film posted today that it will for sure, I mean, to nobody's surprise, it will for sure hit $1 billion. It will probably go a little bit past $1 billion. And then just to read off the same article, they're predicting it to track to top at least 800 mil on its second weekend. Low end, it looks to finish with at least 775 mil this coming weekend. Just 11 million shy of being the biggest Deadpool film in franchise history. So just some cool budget and box office tidbits. To nobody's surprise, smack a billion out of the freaking ballpark.
But yeah, I guess I'll talk about my thoughts a little bit. I will say before I super dive into anything, I just want to mention after I watched the film, I think it was a couple days later, maybe it was in my YouTube recommended the video of them announcing Hugh coming back as Wolverine and whatnot, and just looking at that video and thinking about where we are now. I remember us three specifically talking about it when that video dropped and how excited we were. Aiden was a little bit more skeptical about it because the dude is a Logan Dick rider. So
that I am.
He was a bit worried about it, and I also noticed at the end of that video, it says September 24th or something like that, 2024. So like if it didn't get moved up, we still wouldn't have seen it yet, which is kind of crazy.
That's crazy. They kind of were spot on with that prediction. Yeah. That's wild.
But yeah, I, without further ado, I very much enjoyed this movie. I think it is. I'm not going to go so far as to say what the MCU needs right now, because I, again, am one of those people that has not historically been against the MCU. I will, of course, admit whenever they have their down parts, their down times. And everything like that. But truthfully, this one, the credit I can give it is I think it's the funniest MCU movie to date by far. I cannot remember a single moment in the theater where I did not have a smile on my face, except for like maybe the more emotional beats. But truthfully, I think that the comedy landed like no other. I think this dethroned, I don't know what it would be. I guess it's subjective as to what it would be. Yeah, Ragnarok is probably what the other one would be. So I think for that alone, it makes me kind of want to go back and rewatch it. I have yet to rewatch it. I do want to. I don't know if I will get around to doing that, because we were talking a little bit before we started this that there's that M. Night Shyamalan movie's coming out this weekend, so I might have to make some time for that instead. But no, I think what they did with Hugh Jackman, I thought it was very tasteful and very. I mean, depending on who you talk to, a lot of Twitter thinks that it still ruined Logan, and I think that there's a conversation to be had about that as well, which I think I'll dive into later when we get into spoiler talk. But I think there's merit to both sides potentially. Wade is back in this movie, and he's better and funnier than ever. I do think that the movie could have used a couple more emotional beats for Wade's side of things rather than Logan's. But again, I'll talk about that when we talk about spoilers. I just think that as far as looking at like Deadpool 2 and what they did with that movie, I loved the emotional beats within that. And I kind of wanted a lot more of that for Wade in this movie. And I feel like I didn't quite get it, but the cast is great. Every single person that showed up, I can't wait to talk about that stuff. Every single person that showed up, I was enthralled. I didn't think it was cheap in any way. I won't go so far as to say that every single person that showed up had a purpose. I mean, we all know there's cameos in this movie. There's no spoiler there, but I don't think each one of them served a general purpose for the story, which I've heard a lot. There's a couple that I could point out that I think were just kind of funny little things, but overall, I think there's nothing that you like. I'm very much open to the cameo side of things. I've kind of criticized people over the years when Multiverse of Madness came out and that whole conversation about cameos and their rather worthlessness in the whole grander scheme of the MCU conversation started to happen. But this time, it seems like a stark change. Everybody's all on board for it, so which is fine. I love that, and I'm here for it. I love what they did with the TVA as well. I think that it's a very solid and thorough continuation from what we've seen in Loki. And don't worry, I don't plan to spoil Loki here too much. Maybe until we get to the spoiler section of the movie. But I thought the TVA was handled well. There's one big aspect of the film that I think we're going to talk a lot about in this episode. I think I can say it without it being a spoiler. As far as anchor beings are concerned, we'll talk about that a bit. I'm sure I have some thoughts on that, but Yeah, I can't really think of anything other than the story writing rather the character writing, excuse me, for Deadpool himself is kind of where my negatives lie with this movie. I think that there was a big lax when it came to Wade himself. I think the priority seemed to be more on Logan's side than Wade's side, which is fine. I get it. Hugh's back. Let's enjoy that while we have it. Even though I'm sure he's going to be back again in Secret Wars, but well, whatever. But yeah, I think as far as like overall story goes, not super compelling. The villain isn't anything special. Not horrible though. Nothing bad. I just don't think that there was much for her to do. I think the actress did a wonderful job. Very like I will say the moments when she is like using her powers on people, that like I was roped in every time on screen when that was happening. But just beyond that, her like her character didn't really give me much else, So I can't really sing its praises, but that's like a general MCU thing. Usually it's we're talking about how underwhelming the villains are. So I don't want to yap too long, I guess, but my general thoughts, I don't know if we want to give a number yet or if we want to save that for the spoiler section, but if I had to give it a number right now, and I do think it has gone down, I will preface since I first saw it. When I initially walked out, I said it was about an 8 out of 10. It's probably about like a 7.5, 7 out of 10 for me now, truthfully. But yeah, those are my thoughts on my non-spoiler thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine.
I'll actually go second just because I'm a little bit closer to Charlie, just to jump ahead of it, just to jump ahead of my general thoughts. It's gonna work from bottom up based on what I've kind of seen. Just a little tease. I'm more at about. I'll start with my number and then I'll talk about why. I'm more at about an 8, I think, low 8. If I go anywhere from like 8 to 8.3. In terms of an experience, I mean, this was a damn great experience. It brought back the feeling, like I said, just gearing up towards the movie, trying to scramble to find time off because I could not miss being there opening night. Like it was just like so much fun. And I think it lived up to the hype in terms of that. It's exactly what I was looking for. But I've tried to be better about not letting that kind of overshadow my thoughts on something as a movie. And as a movie, I do think it's a little bit messy, kind of lost me a little bit from time to time, which is why I can't be like, yeah, this is up there with one of like, this is one of the all-time greats. As Charlie said, I mean, I think the villain, I loved her performance. I think she was great as the villain. As Professor X's sister, I forget the name of her character. I just don't like Cassandra Nova. I just didn't really like what she was given. I don't know. There's some things I'll touch on later, more towards the latter half of the movie that I was just kind of like, okay, that's a choice. And so I didn't want to give it a pass just because it was a Deadpool movie. I didn't want to excuse its messiness just because it was a Deadpool movie. And I found myself trying to do that a little bit towards the latter half of the movie where I was like, okay, like, I'm not really liking this decision, or, all right, this is kind of sticking out to me, but I mean, it's fine. It's Deadpool. I expect it, or, oh, it's fine. I don't go into a Deadpool movie expecting to critique a villain, as if I was watching like, some high prestige movie, some A24 movie. And so I kind of had to like take myself out of it a bit and be like, okay, I can't give it that excuse and I can't just bypass that just because of that. So I tried to separate experience in the theater and like movie wise. And obviously there are cameos in this. And one topic of discussion that I've seen a lot on Twitter is this is what Multiverse of Madness should have been, or this is what everyone thought Multiverse of Madness should have been. I think Multiverse of Madness might have even done it better. Like in terms of cameos, no. Like
wow.
I mean, it's the closest one to like kind of compare it to, but like obviously we're gonna talk later. Like in terms of big hitter cameos, obviously not. Like we understand that, but in terms of how it was done, in terms of a villain, in terms of the structure of the movie, I mean, you're going to sit there and tell me that it was done better than Multiverse of Madness? Is that you as a Deadpool fan? Like, is that you excusing fourth wall breaks and like, Deadpool telling us, like, it's the same thing with She-Hulk. Like, were we going to sit there and excuse how shitty that finale was and how shitty the structure was just because she's breaking the fourth wall and laughing with us? Or are we going to sit there and be like, okay, that's cool, but it's still kind of bad decision making on your part, and I don't agree with it. And so that's kind of what I was trying to do with myself in terms of trying to excuse this just because of the character, just because of the main character of the movie. And so that's kind of why I'm not like super like high on, but I mean, it's still 8 out of 10. I still think it's a very, very good movie. I still do think it's a very good movie. There are just those third act decisions that I'm just kind of like, okay, I wasn't really liking that. But then when I think back to Multiverse of Madness and the structure of that movie, it really hit me whenever I started seeing everyone making the comparisons, and I was like, all right, like, why are we trying to write off Multiverse of Madness like that when it kind of did it, better or like, at least the same. But again, haven't watched that movie in a while, so that was just immediate thoughts of me being like, oh wow, my subconscious is kind of telling me that I don't agree with this, and so let me dig deep and think about why I don't. And so other than that, I think it's an amazing experience. I thought I had the time of my life, especially before and after watching the movie, just getting that feeling back, being able to go to bat for Marvel, which a little bit off topic, but like the days that followed, getting to go to bat for them, it felt like it was because of the feeling that this movie brought me. And so I do applaud it for that. I do applaud it for the great time that I had. Just not super high on it as a film, but again, 8 out of 10, low 8 out of 10. I still think it was really good. I still had a blast, and I think it's a great addition to the MCU. It might not be what they need right now, but it definitely did restore the feeling, and it did get me back on the hype train. So not to say I ever left, but I might have just moved a few seats back and let everyone else, take charge. But now got me back up front.
I guess something that I should preface is, I touched on this in our last episode that we recorded, but I think just like sitting down for this movie made me realize how different my perspective is as a Marvel fan. And I don't know if it's because, it's been a while since we got a Marvel movie, and the last one we got was The Marvels, which, not particularly a great movie. And just with like all the hits and misses and whatever, like, sure, they've been going back and forth a lot the last couple of years. But I would still argue that if you include the TV shows, there's been a lot more duds than there has been hits. And so I think that for me personally, I've started to feel that just like lack of faith in Marvel. And so even though I was like on board with the trailers and I love the idea of this movie, and of course, like Hugh coming back, on board with that. But literally just sitting down in the theater, I remember I talked to my friend who was next to me, and he was like, dude, are you hyped? I'm so excited for this movie. And I was like, I kind of wish I was more excited. Like, I'm not there. I'm not at that level of hype, even though, like, there was still that part of me that was like, this could be amazing. It's just those doubts that, like, I was really feeling that because of the recent years of Marvel. So I think that honestly is why I like this movie even more than both of you. And I probably need to rewatch it at some point and have a bit of a different lens now that I know what to expect. But this movie was everything that I wanted it to be, like in my dream world of like, it would be so cool if this is what they did. And it like hit all of those beats for me. And of course I can still take a step back from that and say that some of the story structuring wasn't the best, and The villain was pretty poor, but like at least for me and what I wanted out of this film, those things I just didn't care about as much. And so it like the things that I wanted, it gave me, it hit those notes. And so at least upon my initial viewing, I went so far as to give it a 9 out of 10. I would need to rewatch it, I think. Just like give it a little time, have a bit of a shift in perspective. But I think it's because my expectations and my excitement were so low that because it was good, like it's just like an imbalance. I ended up really, really loving it. But to some of your guys' specific points, just like my general thoughts on them, like Charlie, you brought up with Wade's character, I think their emotional beats that they had a lot of like interesting ideas with it, and they set up a lot of cool things, but they just didn't like do a great job of like highlighting it or actually fully fleshing it out. But like a lot of his motives or the setup for why he's doing what he's doing, I think it's all there. They just didn't really like piece it together, I think, in a way that made it fully compelling or as emotional as it could have been. Um, just yeah, and we'll talk about that later, just more in depth. And then Aiden, as for your listen, everybody I think made the comparison to Multiverse of Madness for certain aspects of this film. But I immediately after the movie, when talking with people about this, we had that discussion, and I will stand by and we will discuss this on why this movie does it leagues better than Multiverse of Madness when it comes to, we'll just call it, when it comes to cameos, put it that simply. This didn't just feel like things for the sake of having things in the movie and making you, you know, freak out and think that it's cool. Like that's not what this felt like. Maybe like some of it, maybe a little bit, parts of it. You could point at certain characters, whatever. But as a whole, I think this was handled way, way better than Multiverse Madness. So yeah, we'll dive into that a little bit later. But in general, yeah, this was just surprisingly just so fun. And like I kind of assumed that would be the case. Like you have the director Sean Levy, who in recent years did Free Guy and The Atom Project with Ryan Reynolds, which are both PG-13 movies, but both still very like enjoyable, humorous, even though, you know, they don't have that staple R rating that Deadpool films get. But you could still tell that Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds just knew how to make fun projects together. And I mean, Sean Levy even worked with Hugh Jackman back on Real Steel, which came out, I think, in like 2009 or something, which I actually like that movie. It's not
It's a really good movie.
yeah, it's not a comedy, but I think it's a pretty good movie.
Wait, which one? Real Steel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. So
still,
I had like honestly some of my biggest confidence was the fact that Sean Levy was making another film with Ryan Reynolds, and like I had already seen their potential. I honestly was most worried about Disney and Marvel, you know, letting them fully go for it. And I gotta say, this movie really shocked me with how much they fully went for it, specifically with the comedy. I think like action wise, it's like it's R-rated action. Yeah, there's like more of it than I expected, but there it's not like anything stood out as like, well, I can't believe that they let them do that violent thing. Whereas some of the remarks, the jokes, some of the references to real life things, it's like I'm very shocked by it, but like I'm really glad that it just feels like they made the movie they wanted to make. So, yeah, I think as a general point of reference, yeah, I think I just had lower expectations like right when I was about to watch it, and so that just made my enjoyment really just like carry me into loving the movie more than I think a lot of people do. So, I'll definitely need to rewatch it again, but some of those things won't change. Like the movie's still going to be fun. It's still going to be hilarious. It's like those things aren't going to change. It's more so like you take a step back and you look at some of the other things. How much does that really like affect the overall stance that you have on the film? So I'll be curious to see how that changes. But as of right now, I am a big fan. They won me over.
Which like at the end of the day is a great thing nonetheless. Like like I said, I was satisfied both before and after the movie. Comic-Con this weekend made it like even better, had me even more bought in. And so to hear that you were kind of skeptical and not really like as excited as, others, and then you came out the other side being like, I mean, that's awesome, 9 out of 10. Like, I think that's the feeling that we've talked about, a bit of, I mean, for sure me and Charlie, but like even just other conversations in the group chat, all three of us have talked about, quite a bit of Marvel just like restoring that feeling or just not feeling as like great. So to see that they seemingly got all three of us back on board, or just kept our spirits up for others that have been on board, it's a cool thing nonetheless.
Agreed. Well, yep, those were all three of our thoughts, non-spoiler thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine. We are going to continue our discussion here, going full spoilers, fully in depth. So if you have not seen the film and you've watched to this point, thank you so much for watching or listening. We appreciate it, but I do recommend clicking off. Unless you just don't care and you don't plan on seeing it, then stick around and hear what we think about the rest of the movie. But we appreciate you for listening if you are leaving. Okay, I kind of want to run down the film. I have the plot up on Wikipedia, and kind of just want to run through it in order, probably, and we'll stop and talk about things as we see fit. But the movie opens with Wade traveling throughout the multiverse, or not the multiverse, excuse me, just traveling to the 616 universe, rather. And this isn't going to be a direct, like, it doesn't quite open directly with this, but just the important beats. But Wade travels from his universe, which is 10 or 1005, whatever, to the main Earth, MCU Earth 616, and tries to join the Avengers while talking to Happy Hogan. My only, I've seen some point of contention about this. Wade's ability to travel to the 616 universe. And I'm not quite sure I fully understand why people are wondering about that. I feel like that's been pretty established. Even in Endgame, I think it was pretty established, but even further established within Loki, that like different timelines are different universes in the MCU version of this thing. So traveling through time, you can also go to a different timeline, which is therefore a different universe. Don't know how Wade knew how to get to that one, but Wade can break the fourth wall. So I feel like that's relatively easily explainable. Like he knows to talk to the camera and stuff. So all that kind of thing. I liked this scene. This was the first like cameo, but like not really a cameo. It's just Happy's in like everything. So it was cool to see him though, and have him be look at him be young again. He had no like gray facial hair or anything like that. I wanted your guys' thoughts on this because at one point the camera points to the picture of Tony and Peter, but Peter's face, or Peter's half of the picture, is covered up by the helmet from the little kid in Iron Man 2, which everybody now knows that is Peter, or at least I think it's just generally headcanon that's Peter, and Kevin Feige said that he likes that idea. But what do you guys think that was? Do you think the reason was to show A, that was Peter as a kid, or B, that they are covering up Peter because the spell apparently from No Way Home was time spanning? It spanned across all time. So even in 2018, everybody like doesn't know who Peter Parker is now. Like in our understanding of 2018, when before Infinity War happened and everything, Peter Parker doesn't exist. Just everybody knows Spider-Man, not Peter Parker. What do you guys think of that?
I think there's so many ways you can go about it. I think overall it's just, my flat out answer is it's confusing as all shit, because it's like, if the picture's taken, the picture's taken. Who else is Tony sitting there with pointing to, like, so then it just starts to, I don't know. I feel like obviously they couldn't show him because Sony and whatever, but I feel like it is for sure. Like, I feel like that is the obvious one, is that yes, it is seemingly confirming that. I don't know if at least not at first, I never thought that that was the spell, that was showing the spell did time span. I mean, I just assumed that it was, like at that point in time, where Wade went, he wasn't forgotten as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But then you start to get into those things of like, okay, well then how does it work if he's forgetting? Can you go back in time and remember that he was Spider-Man? Whatever. And so, yeah, it gets real confusing thinking about that, which is why I haven't tried to think about it that much this past week.
Benjamin, you have any thoughts on it?
I think I don't buy the theory about it being connected to the spell. I'd have to pay attention next time, but when watching it, it didn't like stick out to me like, oh, they're intentionally hiding Peter. I didn't really think that. But the other interesting thing about it is like, regardless of whether like they show him or not, like, if Wade Wilson was to see Tom Holland as Spider-Man or whatever, it will be interesting if they ever interact with each other and like where things are at with the spell, because like Deadpool's the kind of person to just like, call out a character, whether it's like by their first name or by, their actual name of the actor that portrays them. So that was something that I kind of like, I just thought of that as like, I do wonder like if anything interesting will come of that in the future, and if they'll actually avoid interaction between those two, depending on where things are at with that. But that depends on, if Deadpool is even in, say, Secret Wars with Spider-Man, and who even knows at that point. But yeah, I don't really buy into the spell being part of it. I didn't think anything of it. And I guess the reason I don't buy into it is because we literally are in 2018, and we can watch Infinity War, which takes place
Peter,
in 2018. They know Peter, so it's like if Deadpool is talking to Happy Hogan around that same time, there's like that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't,
because it's not like Deadpool's traveling back to talk to Happy. Like that is 2018.
Yeah. I don't like the idea either that spell spans across all time. Like I feel like that's just a lazy way to try to write around that. Like obviously, like yes, it has to. In general knowledge, that spell has to span across time because people just don't know who Peter Parker is anymore. It's like they never did. It's like they never knew this kid. General knowledge, it has to span across time, sure. But in actual practice, like when us as the audience are watching a scene from 2018 that is supposed to be set in 2018, like I don't think that you retroactively make that be the case that entire time. I just think my general surface level thoughts on it are just that mask was there as like an acknowledgement of like covering up Peter, like, hey, that kid from Iron Man 2 with this helmet on, that was Peter. That's what I think that was. But I mean, even that could just be headcanon stuff, or actually not could be, but it is headcanon stuff. But anyway, I guess I kind of skipped. I shouldn't have skipped. I only skipped it because Wikipedia didn't mention it. But before this, probably the greatest intro to any MCU movie takes place at the beginning of this film. I was ecstatic watching this unfold in front of me. The movie actually opens with Deadpool digging up Logan's grave from the end of Logan, trying to find his body. We don't know why yet, but we see the cross and everything like that. And then as we cut back to Wade, he finds Logan's adamantium skeleton. He finds out, okay, yep, you're pretty dead. Like, because he's digging him up. We know that he wants to we know that he wants to find him for some reason, and he's like, okay, you're probably pretty dead. And then all of a sudden the TVA shows up, and the TVA are trying to bring him back, and they tell him to put down his weapons. I'm not going to put down my weapons, but I'm also not going to use them. And he has a wonderful line about how there's 206 bones in the human body, 207 if I'm watching Gossip Girl, which I thought was really good. And then, oh my gosh, man, he kept his word. He doesn't use his weapons except for one guy, but he just breaks off. I also don't know how I feel about that, but I'll talk about that in a second. He just breaks off different parts of Logan's skeleton and kills a gigantic group of TVA enemies, all while the Bye 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 from NSYNC is playing in the background, and it just randomly cuts at random points in the fight to Deadpool dancing to Bye Bye Bye, just like they do in the music video for this song. Absolutely fantastic, dude. I mean, as far as like intros to the Deadpool films go, like this, even just the Deadpool films, like that, fantastic. But I think this tops. I don't know what you guys would have put as at number one for the MCU films. Probably, I personally would have put like Guardians 2. I would have said for an intro. I would have put that probably at number one, or even Guardians 1. I actually kind of like Guardians 1 a little bit more. Watching Chris Pratt just like dance around and kick things, but
I would have definitely put Endgame. I think Endgame's a big sleeper, which I don't even know. I mean, I might still have Endgames. I don't know. I go back and forth, but I was making sure to not jump too quick on calling it the best, but I don't know. I go, the more I see it, the more I see the edits on it. I lean more towards Deadpool, but
yeah,
I mean, regardless, it's up there. If it's not one, or if it's not two, it's one. If it's not one, it's two for me. I just think Endgames is just so badass. Like, oh man, it's just so sick. But whatever. Continue.
No, I mean I think it's fantastic. Like I didn't want it to end. I feel like is the best way for me to put it. It was but I also wanted it to end because I wanted to get to the rest of the movie because I was very excited for this movie going into it. But like you mentioned, watching all the videos on TikTok and Twitter and whatnot, all the edits about this video, even that kid who makes the Lego animations, he made one as well for the intro, and I just think that's super, really super cool. I also loved the bit at the end of the intro when the one last TVA guy comes up. He says, like, you're the most annoying thing to come out of Canada or something like that. And then he says, keep my country's name out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, I was literally sitting there like almost crying, dude. Like I was tearing up just being like, this is fucking awesome. Like this is fucking amazing. I can't believe I'm sitting here right now watching this. Like, and it just kept getting better and better. Like I was on the verge of crying. I even leaned over to Brandon a couple times and I was like, dude, I'm tearing up. This is magical. Like whatever this intro scene is doing to me, I want more of it.
Yeah, I just had an immediate smile on my face. Like, of course, when they start you out and they're like, he's having that kind of self-aware moment of like, you're probably wondering how we're going to do this without ruining Logan, basically. And he's like, well, we are going to. And of course you're like, oh, I thought they said they weren't going to touch this. Because I didn't even expect them to touch it at all. But like,
I immediately thought of Aiden when I heard that because I didn't know how they were going to mess with it yet. And when they said that they were going to mess with it, I was like, dude, Aiden, if they really mess with it, Aiden's probably pissed. but because I hadn't heard your guys' thoughts yet, but sorry to interrupt.
Oh, you're fine. So yeah, I didn't expect them to touch on it like almost at all. I expected maybe like a reference, obviously, or like obviously there would be some sort of explanation, but I didn't think that it would be like an actual story point or that we would, visit Logan's grave or anything like that. I was not expecting that extent to it. And yeah, I think some people will still call into question on, whether that's a good or a bad thing. I feel like there might be some people who have issues with it, but I think like literally as soon as it started, I was just like immediately huge smile on my face. And then just to get like the action was cool. And then, anytime it cut to the dancing, you're still just like vibing and having a great time. Yeah. And it like did a good job of, I think, setting the tone for it. Even just like from the Marvel Studios intro and the fact that, at the end, he's kind of humming along to it. And he's just like, I love that music. Like literally from the very beginning, it's like, what you're getting yourself into. And I think like just so perfect to start off the movie. And I do think this is probably the best intro, but I also think that most of the other Marvel movies don't necessarily focus on having a good like intro into title sequence.
Yeah.
That's fair. Guardians 2 is a great example of that. And I think that is one of their strongest ones. Like even Avengers Endgame, I had to even think like, what is the intro before the title sequence, because I thought it was actually like a pretty extended, period of time, and they don't even have like credits or any of the cast and crew or anything like that. So that's why it's a little different, because Deadpool actually has like intro credits as the intro. And so I think the one thing that I would have liked to see at least a little hint of is some of what they did in Deadpool 1 and 2, where for different cast and crew members, they actually have like jokes about them. And, in this case, it was more just like, it was just names, which like the fact that we were seeing, the cast and crew names on the the bones of Logan, like that's still great. But that was like the little piece that I feel like they could have just sprinkled in a little bit to kind of tie it in more so with the other Deadpool movies. But as a whole, yeah, absolutely loved it. And then like when he has the claws and it's the title sequence, and then it kind of like cuts to explaining things a little bit
for 20
and everything.
goddamn minutes that we fucking went on too goddamn long. No, sorry, Ben.
I liked the explaining part, because that's when it cut to the MCU stuff.
I thought it was a great break, and it felt. I'll just say this and then you can talk, Aiden.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
It felt very much like Deadpool 1, where you start with something and then it kind of pauses. There's slow-mo. And then there's kind of we need to explain some things, and it kind of jumps back and forth a little bit, and then you get kind of the payoff to that sequence. That's what it felt like. I'm like, this is very Deadpool, and it didn't like, to me, it felt paced very, very well. I had no issues with the pacing, like in that whole introduction.
No, I was just gonna say, just to touch on the Logan stuff. For a split second, I was like, God damn it. And I was like, just so upset. I was like, great, dude. Like, this fucker is really touching Logan like this. And then he dug him up. But then I was like, I just really was thinking about it during the whole like intro sequence. And like after it finished and I saw just how he was dismantling Logan's legacy right there from the Logan movie. Afterwards, and after everything happened, I was really like, I mean, it's not going to take away anything from Logan. And anytime I sit down and watch Logan, it's still going to be its own movie to me. And it's, I didn't hate it as much as like, again, listening to the episode we did when we were watching the trailer. And I was like, I was like, you know what? As long as they don't touch Logan, I'm all good. They can do whatever they want. And they fucking dismantled his body, bro, and use it as weapons. And I still love the movie, so if that had to tell you anything about it, I thought it was great. I mean, I was happy that he pointed it out and was like, I bet you're wondering, touch Logan's legacy. He's like, well, we're going to, and I was like, oh, you fucker. All right, better make this good, and they did. So I'm able to let bygones be bygones. But just to touch real quick on the like jumping back, I think it's fine. Like, I get that's his shtick, and he's done that in the past two Deadpool movies. In my opinion, I just think it went on a little too long. Where I was like, okay, like, like, and even the stuff with Vanessa, I was just like, which I get. They did make it an integral part of the plot, obviously because of the problems they had. I also just. That was just one of the moments where I just felt like it was kind of lazy. Again, with like, even just maybe it's just me missing the Deadpool 2 cast also, and just like kind of seeing him talk so much about like that being the family he needs to get back to, and like those are his people. It's like, okay, so then why are they not really all in the movie that much? Why is this not like, more of a, I don't know. I just feel like if you were going to spend that time on there, I feel like it just could have been spent setting up those emotional moments later better, if that makes sense. Rather than just having this like him at the like selling cars and all that. I was like, okay, we're lingering a little bit too long. Like I want to get back to the fam from the second movie. Like I want to get back to his family. And, now looking back on the movie, the family that he fights for throughout the entire movie, the family that he wants to sacrifice himself for. And I'm like, okay, so where is that all out the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I will say I agree with that actually. 'Cause the family that Wade, I get it. Like he was on this adventure for the family, but like we barely see them in this movie.
Yeah.
Like I like when I was watching the live stream of the premiere and all the actors are showing up. Like Vanessa's actress showed up, and I think Dopinder showed up and everything. Like I think Peter of all of them got the most screen time, and it's
Yeah.
just like I love Peter. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like what like this whole. I saw nobody from in this movie at all for longer than probably like a minute's worth of screen time total. But
that was just
yeah,
one of the other things that
yeah.
one of the other I didn't want to just bypass it because it was a Deadpool and Wolverine movie. Like
Mhm.
obviously I know they want to focus on that because those are the ones that are getting butts in seats and obviously the cameos later, and that's how we get to those cameos. We can't get to those cameos with the family from the second movie. Like, you know, you have to throw
Yeah.
Logan in there and you have to have that buddy cop. And I get it, and I fully get it. I loved it. Again, made for an awesome experience, but I didn't want to bypass in terms of a movie, in terms of the it being a Deadpool movie, you know, in this trilogy. I didn't want to excuse it just because of that. So
Right.
I
that
wanna
just to wrap that back up.
Yeah, well, I just want to say it while we're on the topic, and maybe this should have been saved for later, but I think an approach that they could have taken to make that better, because I definitely agree that like some of the characters, you're like, okay, they could have been used more. They're central to parts of the plot. We could have brought them in. Even just like bring them in as variants, like in the void, and have a say Vanessa variant who, you know, had some sort of unique relationship with her Wade that kind of informs our Wade, and you know, he can learn more about himself, and like that could, you know, push those emotional beats further. And you know, I understand that they kind of had this central focus, like you guys have been saying, but like it definitely could have been done. And I mean, you never know why. Maybe some of the actors didn't want to have more involvement. Like who knows behind the scenes, you know, what causes all of those things. But I think most of us would guess like they decided to put all of their chips on, you know, just our main two heroes and some of these other cameos. And so some things just did get sidelined. But yeah, I just wanted to bring up that like my thought with it was bring variance into the void that could still be an emotional, you know, plot driven reason for our characters to kind of like go through those emotions and just have the storyline pushed further. I think that that would be like if you wanted to keep the movie relatively the same but include those characters, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I fully agree.
that's I agree with that idea because I think Vanessa also in the comics. I saw a thing on Twitter today. Like she plays, I can't remember the name of the character, but like she actually has like powers. I think she's called like Copycat or something. I don't know. You could have seen a variant of her somewhere in there. You know.
Well,
But
could
I
you
guess
just like real quick, could you just like imagine if like a variant of Vanessa did show up with the other people in the void and like the big Avengers void crew in like a superhero costume, and just like to see his reaction to that, or just like
yeah.
to see him have to let that one go for like the other Vanessa and be like, I can't look at you no more. I have mine at home. I don't know. I just think that'd been cool.
I agree. It actually sounds really funny. But I guess while we're on the topic at the beginning here of Logan and whatnot, we'll talk about uh, our thoughts on what they did to Logan and everybody complaining on Twitter lately, because it's kind of also been sparked up again with the topic of RDJ coming back to play Doom and his death as Iron Man. First, actually, I want to say a little nerdy thing that like probably doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but like, how is Deadpool ripping off his bone? Like he snapped his ribs in half. Like that's still adamantium, you know? Like how is he just ripping that off with
Well,
with his
but
bare hands?
like you don't know necessarily how the bones are connected.
Well, no, I'm talking, but the like he snapped a rib in half. Like that's the first thing he broke on the body. He
Was it in
snapped off a
half or
limb.
like
Yeah, he's like in half. He snapped like I'm pretty sure. I mean, I've only seen the movie once, so I could be wrong, but I'm pretty
yeah.
sure he snapped the rib in half. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like it's still at. And granted, like metal degrades over time. I don't know the characteristics of adamantium, whatever. But even I guess in Logan, as like we saw, like his healing factor can degrade because adamantium is what was poisoning him and killing him. So
I mean, I can just say, like, I know because I have actual like medical issues with some of my ribs that like some of them are not very attached at all, especially your bottom ones can be like basically just attached by like tissue, which is, you know, what connects a lot of your joints and bones
Sure.
throughout your whole body. So I'd have to rewatch to see if he actually like, you know, snapped a bone or anything.
Yeah.
But I remember a lot of like I remember him using a lot of like smaller bones to like throw or to, you know, stab people.
Yeah.
But then also at times like he's using like a whole leg or
I
know.
really love the part. I don't know what bone he used, but it was a long one. And like he hit somebody in the crotch and it made it look like he had a boner or whatever. And then as he hit him, like he stroked the bone on the way down.
Yeah. That was great.
But anyway, him breaking the bones is inconsequential. It's just a little nerdy whatever thing. But I saw a take that I actually somewhat agree with as it pertains to messing with their previous iterations of the character, both RDJ and Hugh Jackman, because those served as like not only an ending to those characters, but like an ending to those actors in their portrayal. And so watching it on a meta level, you're saying goodbye to Wolverine, that version of Wolverine, the one that's been around since the 2000s X-Men movies, right? But you're also saying goodbye to Hugh Jackman. This is the last time he's going to play the character. When we all watched that in 2017, that's what we all thought. That's what we all assumed. And I think that when you're thinking that absolutely like, and not anticipates, that's not the right word, but that influences or enhances your feelings, your sentimental feelings about it, because this is the last time I'm going to see Hugh don the claws, you know, like, and he's dying on his back right now. I can't, like, never seen this happen with him before, and this is the only time it's going to happen. And then now he's back, you know, like I don't think, and let me also clarify, just because I agree with this, I don't think I don't, that doesn't mean I dislike that he came back in any way. I'm still happy as hell he's back. I don't think that I don't think that me personally, it's not going to ruin my experience. Like I even rewatched it, knowing that he was coming back. I rewatched it going into this, and it was still emotional. Definitely wasn't as strong, but that could either be because I've seen it before, or it could be because he's back, you know? So that was the take that I saw that I agree with, sort of. I would say that also, though, for RDJ specifically, we didn't 100% know that he's not coming back. In fact, a lot of us assumed for Secret Wars he would be coming back. I think a lot of the RDJ stuff is mostly, I think that was going to happen anyway, for one, no matter who he was announced to be coming back as, either an Iron Man variant or Iron Man himself coming back, but also people mad as hell that he's playing Doctor Doom. And so they're looking at any reason to shit on that in any aspect. But yeah, that's, I guess I wanted your guys' take on that take that I heard of as far as the actors also being part of the reason that the farewells to these characters worked so well.
I can go next just because I know Aiden was the most vocal about his love for Logan and them not touching it. So I think for me, one of the things that I kind of hark back to is the fact that Hugh Jackman said that Logan was going to be his final movie as Wolverine. But then in all of these like recent press interviews for Deadpool and Wolverine, he talks about how basically right after he announced it, he saw the first Deadpool movie, and then he instantly knew that he regret saying it. And it's not that in that moment he knew he would be coming back, but he knew in his head, like, oh, I could see myself doing something again. And so, like, if you kind of take that away, and if he had never, like, officially said anything, then it might be similar to an RDJ situation where, you know, with all of these mergers and stuff, we never knew what was going to happen with Hugh Jackman as the character. And the truth is that it might have never happened, just like with the merger. We didn't know if we were going to see Ryan Reynolds play the same Deadpool that we saw for the first two movies. We didn't know if he was going to get a third movie and how they would handle it. we've now seen that they like fully embraced it. But I think there were all of those, like, you could have similar thoughts about a lot of different characters and people who have portrayed them. I mean, you can tie back to Multiverse of Madness, like Patrick Stewart. I mean, it's just like a random example of, did people really think he was going to come back as Charles Xavier? I don't know. Like, I think you can say that about a lot of characters. And more specifically on the actor side of things, I really think the main reason why people would have more of an issue with this is because it was so publicly stated by Hugh specifically that that was it for him. But like, you know, if he had hindsight, he wouldn't have said that. And he regretted it very soon after claiming that. And so he was never against coming back. And I think that's the bigger thing, is that if an actor truly has a love for a character, whether that's one that they've played or one that they are going to play, then I don't think he looks back and has any regrets, and he wasn't hesitant to come back and do this at all. And so if that's true about the actors, I don't understand how anyone has the right to look at that and say that it should or shouldn't have happened. I mean, as long as, like, you can critique what you want about their specific characters, like, we can look at Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom and see what happens with that. And anyone who wants to compare that to anything with Tony Stark or RDJ as an actor, saying he shouldn't have come back to the MCU, at some point it's like, does that really actually matter that much? Versus like, okay, he's playing a new character. How well does he portray this new character? I think that's what's more important. And so, at least in the case of this movie, Hugh coming back, he was great in this movie. He was everything that he needed to be. I loved him in this movie. I don't understand why anybody would complain about this, and his portrayal of it. I just don't see the complaints, because what's the alternative? That he was right and Logan was his last, and then we never got this film? Because I think that's just a dumb take. That's just stupid.
Yeah, I mean, anybody really holding actors to their words and like complaining about it when like there's stuff like this that we could be missing out on, I think it's dumb. I've always been able to just separate it, which is why, like, yeah, and I was vocal about the Logan stuff, but then, you know, I saw what they did with it, and
I decided to stop crying finally.
well, I mean, just think about it. If they really did think it was sacrilege to touch Logan like that, we wouldn't have got that scene. So it's like, who am I to really sit here and hold them to it, and especially hold actors to it, whenever I know that there's really cool things out there that can be explored, such as Robert Downey Jr. playing Doctor Doom. You know, so I've never really been one to really go to bat and care as much as some people on X will do.
Yeah.
Just kidding, some people on Twitter. Just as some people on Twitter will do. I mean, yeah, we talked about, even just for the Comic-Con stuff last episode. I know my thoughts with that. And so, yeah.
All right. Well, I guess now that we're still in the opening 20 minutes of the movie, I guess I want to jump to, well, I really just want to jump to like the important bits now. The next most important thing is the introduction of anchor beings, which I talked about a little bit in my non-spoiler review. Wade is told by Paradox from the TVA that the anchor being in his universe has died, and or actually the way he's told about it is like, he's told about anchor beings and he assumes that he is an anchor being, and that his universe is going to be destroyed because he is leaving his universe. But then he is corrected and told, I really love this scene when he's told that Logan was actually the anchor being, and then they pull up the scene of him dying on the TV, yeah. And then they're mouthing the words that he's saying to Laura as he dies. I thought that was awesome. But okay, that's what I wanted to talk about with mostly that's actually what I wanted to talk about the most in this movie, I think, was the concept of anchor beings, because I think that is going to carry through to other MCU projects, and I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on it. Just as the concept as a whole, what do you think about it? Like, is it positive, negative? What do we think?
I like it. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it. I love hearing new buzzwords as we get like more movies. Like, remember the first time we heard variant and like the way they were referred to as variants, and like just to see how it's played now and how that's just like it just rolls off the tongue in any type of discussion. And so I think those things are cool. I think finding those things out. I think I always look at it more from the perspective um, of trusting that they're putting it in there for a reason. And a lot of this has to do with, I mean, a lot of it has to do with one, watching a franchise, knowing that you're in a franchise, knowing that you have 10 plus movies ahead of you, you had 10 plus movies behind you, and you just know that things are always going to be planted. But it's another thing that I think has been enhanced for me, at least over the past year, watching One Piece, knowing that like there is tons of episodes, there's tons of lore that I have to learn, there's tons of important things to be uncovered. So I know that once I hear this new buzzword or if I see this new character, to just be excited and to be prepared for that to be a big point of contention later on in the show. And so I think sitting down for Deadpool and Wolverine, because back in the Marvels, I wasn't watching One Piece as much. I was still watching it just every now and then. From the Marvels to now, I mean, it has literally consumed my life, and so I look at it as that now. Seeing okay, anchor beings, okay, they're being explained. All right, cool. This is gonna pop up later. This is gonna be something cool to explore. I even see people speculating, okay, who's this universe's anchor being? And so just seeing things like that, I think is just super fascinating. I don't really have a hard take on being like, I think it's dumb because it ruins this, because it ruins this. I just think it's something cool that we can explore. I think it's something cool that we'll factor in later, especially with the introductions of incursions and just universes failing and stuff like that. I saw someone say that Tony Stark, like, what if Iron Man was the anchor being for our universe, and they try to bring back another Tony Stark variant, and they end up bringing in Doctor Doom. I think that'd be fucking cool. Like, that'd be sick. And so I don't know. I just think it opens up a lot. It opens up the floor for a lot of cool theories, a lot of cool discussions. It's something that we'll look more into as Brave New World and Thunderbolts come out, as Fantastic Four comes out. It's just another topic of discussion, which I think is fascinating. And I don't know. I like it. I don't have a problem with it at all.
Okay.
I think weirdly, I don't think that it will be brought up a ton in like the most recent upcoming projects. Mainly for the fact that, this was being written, filmed, made at the same time as some of the upcoming ones like Thunderbolts and Brave New World. So I don't necessarily think that we're going to see it implemented anytime soon.
Yeah.
But I think that as an idea, it's really interesting to bring up because we haven't really seen a concept like it when it comes to the multiverse or tying it into like just the TVA and different universes and whatnot. We haven't seen a concept that like this that basically says like, oh yeah, if one person dies, the universe will die. And so that obviously like that raises a lot of like possibilities. Now there is still like you brought up the Tony Stark example, but Paradox said that typically it takes a universe thousands of years before it actually collapses. So it'll be interesting to see how much that plays a factor because, that's quite a long time for a universe to last, especially considering like our time frame of what we've seen in the Marvel universe is so small at this point. But yeah, just concept as a whole, I think is interesting. I don't know if you guys saw the interview that Brandon Davis did with Kevin Feige, but he specifically asked Kevin Feige, "Is Iron Man the anchor being in the 616 universe?" And what Kevin Feige basically said is he said he didn't confirm or deny, but he said, "I'm really glad that you're asking the question," which to me is basically saying like this is a concept that we will explore. We will have this in a very significant way. And so those things, we're going to see that come to fruition. But I think something that I kind of thought of that's interesting to speculate about is like, what will this mean for some of will we start to then see other universes that we're going to close or that are going to die off? The other universes for the other Spider-Man or just other heroes that could theoretically now come into the Marvel universe after all of these mergers. We now have an excuse for the TVA to basically, bring them all together. I honestly wonder if that will be a bigger part of Doomsday / Secret Wars is, all of the heroes coming together because there's some huge issue in the multiverse with, say Doctor Doom going around and killing a bunch of anchor beings or something like that. And that causes, our huge Avengers team to unite and try to stop him. And that's what causes all the characters to come into the same universe or something like that. So I think there's a lot of cool things you can do with it. And it just opens possibilities. And I would say I'm actually already very positive on it for the reason of I feel like this saga hasn't felt like it has a very good direction. And so I like that we're introducing ideas that feels like we could actually come to a point of bringing things together in the next few years. They still have a lot of work to do that, but at least there's stuff that they're bringing in where they could set it up.
Yeah.
What do you have, Charlie?
I have a big dog thing here.
Why are you flipping off the audience? My gosh.
My take on these anchor beings. I feel like I don't know enough to definitively say whether I like it or not. I think there's too many questions surrounding it that are yet to be answered for me to definitively say if I like it or not. And since they're just questions, I don't think I can say if I like it or not. I know I've said that 3 times now, but my thing is a couple questions I have, I guess. So if that's the case, what did that universe do before Logan was born? Granted, it was 200 years ago, but did that universe not exist until Logan was born? How does I don't understand that works. And obviously it was great for that universe that the anchor being was someone who couldn't die until he got adamantium injected into his body and it poisoned him. But I guess that kind of ties into I'm gonna share a video on screen here, and audio listeners will do our best to describe it best we can. But Aiden, if you'd be so kind, thank you. This is when Benedict Cumberbatch was getting his Hollywood Walk of Fame star, and Kevin Feige was giving a little speech for him. Let me know if you guys can hear it.
And you've always
Yeah.
seen the tremendous potential in this character. Because of that, you become the anchor of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the only actor capable of guiding us through the madness of the multiverse.
Granted,
Whoa, okay.
those could just be buzzwords. Those could just be buzzwords because at this time, Multiverse of Madness was coming out. But I feel like that's very particular. Using the word anchor. I don't use the word anchor a lot in my vocabulary. Me personally, that's anecdotal, sure. But I just feel like Kevin Feige is nothing if not particular. Yeah, nothing if not particular. He's very careful with what he says. With evidenced by, I think, his answer to that question that Brandon Davis asked him, just saying, I'm so happy that you're even thinking about asking those kind of questions. So I'm not ready to 100% say that it's Doctor Strange, but I remember we heard rumors a while back that Doctor Strange was going to be the new Iron Man of this whole thing. Obviously, we've heard some people think that it's going to be Peter. I don't think they're going to kill Peter anytime soon, truthfully. I think he's got a whole nother trilogy coming up. They're going to ride Spider-Man as long as they can.
And if they won't, Sony will.
Exactly. But I think Benedict Cumberbatch, I mean, he's been doing this since 2016 now. 2 more years. When the next Avengers movie comes out, he will have been doing it for 10. And I don't think someone like Benedict Cumberbatch wants to be doing it for that much longer. He likes to do more independent films, you know? Like what was that Netflix one with
I know who you're talking about.
Something dog. I don't know. It had a Mary Jane in it. Kirsten Dunst.
Isn't it the one that won some Oscars?
Whatever,
Power
the
of the
name,
Dog, something like that.
Yeah, yes. Like he likes to do films like that. I'm sure he doesn't want to be tied all the time to MCU responsibilities. Not that, I mean, I guess he's pretty open. He's been open the past 2 years after Multiverse of Madness and until they start shooting Avengers Doomsday next year. But I mean, who better to do it? I think Kevin, like in that verbiage too, to guide us through the madness of the multiverse, you know. So but again,
I can't wait to see Doctor Strange pop back up in the MCU, dude. It's gonna be sick. I was kind of hoping he'd pop up, obviously, when Cassandra brought out the sling ring and the cape was on her desk. But
that was a crazy sling ring, by the way.
I was like,
time stone and the reality stone in it. Crazy.
I can't wait to see him pop back up.
Yeah, I mean, I love Multiverse of Madness, so I'm excited too, you know?
Well, and that's the thing, just to kind of go a little bit off topic, I'll get us back on topic. But like I said, I was listening to the episode today, and Ben pointed out something interesting was that our next 3 movies until Doomsday is Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four. That's it. So what the hell are we doing? You know,
that is crazy.
I don't see Doctor Strange popping up in the first 2. Maybe Fantastic Four, but it's like, you know, I feel like you got to have. I don't know. I just feel like we were on such a nice trajectory, and then these past couple of years, it's been like.
Especially because, sorry, I'll let you go, Ben, but I just want to say that, especially because Fantastic Four is like a year from this week, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, nothing. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some TV shows, but nothing, no movies until almost a year later with Avengers Doomsday in May. Like,
and they had a lot of open spots when they showed Phase 6 2 years ago at Comic-Con.
That's true.
They only showed those 3.
That's true. They haven't talked about any more movies from Phase 6 yet. Yeah. That's true.
Anyways, continue.
Or TV shows.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I don't know what source it was or if you guys saw this at all, but like within the last couple of days, I saw some sort of report about Doctor Strange 3 and how that was going to feature Doctor Doom in it.
Oh, I did not see this.
It didn't say anything about like a release or anything, but man, I wish I had it to actually like pull it up and show you guys, but I saw something about it, and there was more details that had me like interested in the thought of it. And so I see that as a potential, and maybe it's like maybe Doctor Strange 3 is in between Doomsday and Secret Wars or something like that. But there
has to be, yeah.
I do think there will be other movies. Like if Blade is gonna happen, I think it happens.
That's true.
Probably by the end of next year.
Well, Shang-Chi 2 did Shang-Chi did also set up some big with that post-credit scene. They had Captain Marvel and Hulk. Like, why would you not throw Doctor Strange into that? So, I mean, yeah.
And they need to announce Shang-Chi 2 as well. And like Ben just mentioned, Doctor Strange 3 has to be announced. So I think I don't know if we're necessarily going to get that stuff at D23 next week.
Can't wait.
But it's definitely a possibility for sure. If not, then I think Comic-Con next year is going to be another big one for them. But actually, no, I think that they have to announce before then, because if they do wait till Comic-Con next year, they're announcing movies that are going to drop within that
they would
year
have to be going into production.
So like that kind of stuff would leak out beforehand if they don't announce it already, you know, because between when the Fantastic Four drops and Avengers Doomsday, I'm sure there's going to be another film in there, because they like we're all talking about, like, it doesn't make sense for them to that lead up just seems like not that crazy. I guess maybe like with Doctor Doom and the Fantastic Four, like that one film could do a lot for setting up, but I also want that film to focus on its own merits, like with Galactus and whatnot. So
I think what I think they're doing, which I honestly think is smart, is that as we're now like really getting close to Secret Wars, I think they're being very particular about what movies are going to release like right before it and then even in between and right after, because this is a very pivotal moment. Because like if you look at the last few years of movies, it's not like there's been a lot of connected storylines or overlap in characters. They announced a ton of projects and everyone, was excited for all of these things, but it's really just been like all of these things, and that's all it's been. And so like they now have to really focus in and, get us to that next point of the story. And so I think that's why we have less projects, and why we necessarily like why we don't know all of those projects. Like there will definitely be projects in between Doomsday and Secret Wars. 100%. There will be. It will not be a full year in between those movies, and that's it.
But do you think it'll just be one though, like how Captain Marvel was in between? Or I guess we had Captain Marvel and Ant-Man and the Wasp. So never mind.
Well, that's back when they were basically like 3 every year. They had like early like January, February, and then they had their April, and then usually their like July releases. Because they were consistently doing that for quite a few years, which clearly they're changing that up. But I think they increased their pace a little too fast, and now they're starting to reel it back a little bit. But especially now that they are really focusing in on like, okay, we have 2 Avengers movies coming up. We've made some really big choices. They do probably have to pick and choose and be very intentional, not only about what projects they're doing, but like what they're setting up in each of those projects to lead into other things. Like I know that Spider-Man 4 has been in talks to be in development.
That's true.
Like that's a possibility that it comes before Secret Wars, just so we have some sort of bridge between No Way Home and Spider-Man being in Secret Wars. Because like
absolutely, yeah,
Spider-Man's going to be in Secret Wars. Like that's
100%. Yeah,
he is, and so we probably need something to bridge the gap between where he is and where he'll be. And that's why I say that there's definitely stuff that we don't know that will start to fill it in, because we've just had a lot of stuff happen, but at some point they have to figure out how to make it all make sense.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we'll get back on track with Deadpool now. The next cool thing I wanted to talk about is the thing that got spoiled for me. I mentioned to you guys that I got something spoiled for me on YouTube. It was the Henry Cavill cameo.
No way.
Yeah, I didn't know that he was playing a variant of Wolverine, but I knew what I saw was I was scrolling through YouTube, and it was the picture of Deadpool walking out of the portal, and then I for some reason glanced to the title, just by natural instinct, glanced to the title, and it said Henry Cavill, and I was like, nope, and I swiped away, and I was like, gosh damn it, brother. Oh my goodness. And I was like, am I sure though? Like, am I sure? Like, I was wondering.
Did any part of you think that it was fake?
Yeah, I was like, am I like, there's no way they do this, but I was like, also the possibility. But then I was like, I mean, I don't know, man. That just seems like too out there to be fake, Like, why would, at most, I thought like, okay, he's gonna make a little joke. He's gonna mention Henry Cavill in that scene. That's what I was hoping. But then clearly that happened and whatnot. But that's why I told Aiden I texted him. It was like a 6 out of 10. I told him like out of like how crazy the cameo was, because like to me I think
that'd be a 10 out of 10.
No,
Cavill.
No, I don't know. I think that's a 6 out of 10 just because like I mean it's just like it's like a nice little thing. I love that he did like the Mission Impossible. He like rang out. He pumped his fists out and whatnot. I did like that. But like overall, I as a cameo, like it was good. But that's one of the cameos that I mentioned is probably what Ben would like into like Multiverse of Madness. Like that was just like a in there for their sake.
Absolutely no. That was absolutely like John Krasinski. That is a here's a fan cast, so we'll give it to you briefly. That's all.
Which is perfectly fine. Like for what they set up in that scene, like trying to just go hunt down like a Wolverine. Like I thought it was
perfectly
sick.
fine for what it is.
Yeah, I'm not saying it was like bad for the story or anything.
But
I thought it was like one of my favorite cameos in the thing. And like obviously like we'll get to like my favorite one. But like I don't know, just to see him.
I love what he said. Like he's like, we'll treat you way better than those fuck sticks down the street or whatever he said.
I don't know. I guess I mean it more in the sense of that was the one I was the most surprised by. No, like nothing in my entire fiber of my being expected Henry Cavill to be anywhere near this movie. So like seeing him, I was like, oh my God, like that was one of the big ones. Whereas, like Electro Blade, whatever, the ones we'll get into later, those are ones I could be like, yeah, I could see them being in the movie, but this one was.
I even disagree with that. Like I think it way more likely that Henry Cavill would show up to play a Wolverine variant than like Blade. Blade to me was the most surprising one.
That's true. I agree with that as well.
Yeah, but like, Wolverine.
Well, specifically it being
Wesley Snipes.
Wesley Snipes.
Yeah,
I will say that. Yeah, specifically.
Yeah, but no, Henry Cavill just doing a little cameo because it's like been a fan casting for years. I think that. I don't know. That's not that surprising to me. I think
it's less surprising after Multiverse of Madness, I will say, because knowing what that they are willing to do something like that to appease fans, I guess.
And now, like, if we saw, there's still some that would be really cool that people have been fan casting for a while. But like, if we see Tom Cruise as Iron Man in Secret Wars, I'm not gonna like it's gonna be like, okay, they're doing another like popular fan cast where they're giving people what they want. It's not, at some point that's going to be like, you're almost expecting it. It's like, okay, we're getting another one of these. But one thing that I want to point out about the Henry Cavill cameo, I forget which video I was watching, but I was watching just a spoiler discussion about the film. And something that they said that like, I didn't realize till I thought about it, is seeing Henry Cavill as Wolverine made them realize that at some point when another actor does play Wolverine, somebody else can do it and it will be okay. It won't be Hugh Jackman, but it can work. And as I thought about it, I'm just like, yeah, Henry Cavill could have played Wolverine and we probably would be happy with it. It would be different, but like he fits the character. And so just the thought of like Hugh Jackman is really the only person who has ever played Wolverine. And so I know for some people, the thought of another actor stepping into that role is like really daunting. I think that kind of shows like it can be done. Like somebody else can fit that look, fit the vibe, and make it work. And so like the video that I was watching, they were like, that gives me hope for, getting a new Wolverine in the future.
Yeah. I fully agree. I thought it was a really cool cameo. I thought that whole sequence was fun. I like to see the brown and yellow Wolverine suit. That was beautiful. I hope if he
said the Hulk too. He's like, I am Marvel Jesus, you dull creature.
Yeah. I thought it was cool seeing the Hulk too. I wasn't expecting that one. I will say my theater did not pop that loud for either one of the cameos. The Henry, like I said, super surprised the Henry Cavill cameo wasn't like an automatic what the actual fuck out loud in the theater. But I don't know. I liked seeing all the Wolverines. It was a really cool It was a really cool sequence.
I liked the comic accurate one too.
Yeah. I liked all of Deadpool's comments on each of them. The comic accurate one, the shots at DC, even in the the brown and yellow, he's just like, isn't this the one where you fight Hulk? Just like,
oh, dude, I thought it was so fucking sick. The one where he's they take the Uncanny X-Men comic cover and he's like up on the X. Dude, that set production, oh my God. Really nice, Marvel just like digged deep in their bag for that. I was like, holy shit, this looks sick.
Yeah.
Cool montage. Cue the montage.
Then he finds the Wolverine that we follow throughout the film, and we don't learn much about his backstory then. Then he brings him back to the TVA, yada, 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 brings him. They get sent to the void, and then we run into we have a really cool fight scene, and I love what he said right before it happened. And he's like, get your special socks out, nerds. It's gonna get good.
And the running on all fours.
Yeah, that was
My
like
theater
the
cheered for that.
yeah. That's Wolverine being dude. My theater was strange. I forgot to mention like right when the Marvel logo started playing, people started clapping and cheering at the beginning of the movie. I was like, what the
That's
hell,
how it
bro?
was for No Way Home. Like,
See, like I get that. That I
Mhm.
understand. But
Yeah.
like this was it felt like they were cheering like we haven't had a Marvel movie in like a year or some like dude, we had the Marvels in November. You guys just didn't go watch it, you know? None of you guys
Yeah.
watched it.
Yeah.
But anyway, right after that fight scene, we are introduced to a caped figure, and we don't know, or a cloaked figure, I should say. We don't know who they are. Then they jump down. The voice sounds eerily familiar. Jumps down, takes off the hood. It is Chris Evans, and but it's not Chris Evans. It's the actor. It's Chris Evans, the actor, but we don't know who he is yet. We all assume Captain America, and so does Wade. And I this is what got me. This is where I cheered. I did. Oh no, I did cheer. Like I like jumped up out of my seat a little bit. Even though like I had thought about this like way months and months and months before seeing this movie. This is something that I had thought of, but it was like it had been so long, it was like completely out of my brain or something like that. And then when he's about to say Avengers Assemble, they even like they built up to it to not being that. Like if I had half a brain cell in that moment, I would have been like, oh, okay, he's obviously not going to say Avengers Assemble. But then he said flame on and he flies up. Dude, my theater and me, we were up, bro. That was crazy. But then of course he gets his fire zapped away by Pyro immediately. And then next, Wolverine and Sabretooth fight each other. And they said that like this is a fight people have been waiting for 20 years. I don't care. I didn't care. It was funny. Like, it was like, I mean, it was cool. It was funny. He chopped him up right away, chopped his head off right away. But on the topic of Chris Evans and Johnny Storm, actually, is another one of those cameos I would say like literally serves no, like this does not serve a purpose to the story except for an exposition dump. All he was an exposition dump, because as soon as he's done dumping exposition, or he was an exposition dump and he was a joke. As soon as he was done dumping exposition, he gets killed pretty much. Like as soon as they get there, he's done. And it's just like, all right, man. Like, I mean, not that I wanted to like, this is a Deadpool and Wolverine movie. I'm not here for Johnny. I don't care that he's dead, but it's just like, that was his only purpose. Cause the whole time they were just, on their ride over to Cassandra Nova's place, he was telling them all about the Void and Goliath and all this crap. I will say though that joke, that running gag throughout the rest of the movie, how Logan's like, dude, you got that guy killed. You're a piece of shit. And and then to have the end credit scene be nothing more than like that. I'm normally not the person that likes end credit scenes that are like stupid jokes. Like I didn't like Multiverse of Madnesses with I forget his name, but the pizza balls guy. I didn't care for that. I still to this day don't like the Homecoming one. Like I get that it's a funny, like I understood that it was funny at the time. I didn't like it, but this one was one that was I found super funny. Just going to the TV and he's like, "Fuck you!" When he's done showing us the video, he's like, "Fuck you guys." But yeah, I mean, Johnny Storm, it was cool to see, but overall, I was expecting more out of these cameos just because everybody who saw the movie before me and left like there's some sort of review, they said all the cameos served a purpose in this movie. And the first two served no purpose. The first two that I saw were just like there, which I guess I can't say that Johnny didn't serve a purpose. Obviously, I said he's an exposition dump, which is fine. Every movie needs some sort of way to get their exposition across. But I mean, I can't go so far as to say that like the audience should understand what they're telling us already, because not every audience member watched Loki and knows what the Void is and et cetera, et cetera. But still, it's just like he didn't even mention like the rest of his. He didn't mention the members of his team, just out of sheer coincidence or sheer plot. He didn't mention any of the other members that he's friends with. He did mention, I think, their existence, but he didn't say anything about them other than that. And so I don't want to harp too much on it, but I'm a Fantastic Four dick rider. What can I say? And so like they did my boy Johnny wrong, and so that's just kind of crazy.
I thought it was really cool. There wasn't a bone in my body for some reason. I don't know. It was really weird experience. There wasn't anything in me that thought that would that was Johnny Storm at all. I was like, oh, cool, this is Captain America. We're gonna get to see Captain America just maybe a little bit more unhinged, or he's gonna hear Deadpool cussing up a storm and do a little language bit. But I didn't think at all that it was Johnny Storm. And then he said, oh, he's gonna say the thing. He's gonna say the thing. And then I like right before he said flame on, I was like, oh my God, is it Johnny? And then he said flame on, and then it just erupted. And I was like, oh, what the fuck is Johnny Storm? But I mean, yeah, it's just, I agree. It wasn't really anything too crazy other than a fun post-credit scene callback and explaining Cassandra Nova.
Yeah.
I think they kept on pulling me in different directions. When he first showed up, I was just like, it's probably Johnny, was my first thought. And then he had like red sleeves.
Yeah. And he
you
had
couldn't
like
really
cargo
tell.
pants or something.
Yeah. I was like, okay, so is he just Captain America? And then Pyro shows up, and it's like, okay, I see what they're doing here.
Oh,
and
okay, you collected it.
Yeah. And then of course, like to have the joke be, you know, Deadpool, he's about to say the line, and then yeah. So I caught it like a little bit before, but not too much. They definitely were getting me with like subverting expectations. I think this is not one that I would point to and say like, oh, this serves, you know, a grander purpose in the movie. But I will point to this one and say that the length of time that we got with this character was one thing that I appreciated about this character more than, say, some of the Multiverse of Madness cameos is like they might have served equal purpose, which is like some exposition and then to get killed off. But at least with Johnny, we get like a couple of scenes with him in different environments. You know, we have our initial scene. He's in the action and whatnot. He gets his butt kicked, whatever. Then traveling with them and then interacting with Cassandra Nova. And so like even just the fact that we get to spend more time with him to me makes it a better cameo than Multiverse of Madness, even if like the purpose of it is basically the same thing. And so that's what like I appreciate about it. But yeah, I don't defend this one as like this is big for the story type of thing, but still is one that I really did enjoy, and just like I'm glad with what they gave us. Like that, it was enough for me when it came to this character.
I would point, in, as far as Multiverse of Madness goes, I would point to Charles and his involvement in that movie as similar to Johnny's involvement in this movie. He dropped some exposition along with the rest of the Illuminati, and he took place. There's that scene where they show that how they all beat Thanos, and then also he took part in trying to help take down Wanda before Wanda just murked his ass. So, just to defend Multiverse of Madness a little bit because everybody hates that movie because they're fucking losers. But let's continue on because we are getting a little long on the tongue here, or long on the tooth here. Right after that, of course, actually, no, I don't want to jump too far forward because this is where you get the, like Ben was mentioning, the sort of layout of Wade's conflict within this movie, Wade's character writing within this movie. As soon as Cassandra Nova gets her hands on Wade and we dive into his mind a little bit and see what happened between him and Vanessa. This is the perfect kind of setup for me. I want to add, if there's anything that I love as far as emotional stakes go, it's relationship emotional stakes. And so this was perfect to find out why Wade and Vanessa are not working out, and Wade's inner conflict with needing to matter, right? I also don't know that I love that idea, Wade needing to matter, as if like he didn't matter at the end of Deadpool 2. Like he saved a bunch of mutant kids that were being exploited and crucified by this evil piece of shit dude. Like, is that not something that matters to that? You don't think that matters to the rest of the world, Wade? I don't quite understand that compared to now, but because especially he's felt like he didn't matter in 2018, which is when that event happened. So I'm not quite sure about that, but
Can I point something out about that? Just like my interpretation of it is, I took it as after the events of Deadpool 2, he then used the time machine to go back and, bring people back from his past.
Mhm.
And it kind of seemed like after that point, because of those events and like getting Vanessa back and everything, that's why he stopped being a superhero. And that is what led him to feeling
Like
kind
he
of
needs to
directionless and
matter.
pointless and
Okay.
whatnot. Is like after all that crazy stuff, just like deciding to put the hero life behind him and just be with his girl and his family. That's when that all came about. That was my interpretation, at least.
That's fair. I guess I could understand that. And so then I guess I'd venture to wonder why is he so reluctant to put the suit back on then? Peter's like trying to get him to do it, but he just doesn't want to. And that just seems strange. Maybe he doesn't feel like he's good enough after being rejected from the Avengers 5 years ago. Like he okay, actually I can buy into that maybe now that I'm thinking about it, because if he's doing what you mentioned, Ben, and he put the hero life behind him, but then he realized he needs something to matter, and so he goes and tries to join the Avengers. He's like, I'm willing to get back into the superhero thing if I can be an Avenger, because that is something that matters. But then the Avengers reject him, or Happy rejects him from the Avengers rather. And so that kind of makes him never want to, like, he doesn't even matter with the suit either. So then why would he put the suit back on? I can kind of buy that. Maybe that's just like me warping it so I can buy it. I can buy it in my own kind of way, but whatever. But to continue with that scene, I thought this was a great scene. It gave me chills actually as an emotional moment. I knew that Cassandra Nova was altering it. I know that Vanessa didn't actually say the words like "you don't matter" kind of thing, but still, just like that emotional little scene of both of them sitting there talking at that table about Wade's life, and Wade telling her, like, if you don't want this, tell me right now. If you do not want this, if you don't want me, tell me. And then just watching Vanessa just freeze and sit there and wonder, like, damn. Then I'm sitting here thinking, like, damn, this is how it happened. Like, this sucks, Wade. I feel for you. I thought that was great. But then, as Ben also mentioned, I don't think there was any payoff to that until like the very end, which I also love this line too, where Logan's like, give me the fucking dog, talk to the girl. And
such a great line delivery.
When he turns to Vanessa and he says, like, I want you to know I did it for you. Like, even if you don't want me yet, I did it for you. So fucking good. That gave me chills right now just saying it. Like, that is so fire. And that's the kind of thing, and I'm sure we're going to get more Deadpool, but that's the thing. I don't know when. I don't know if he's going to show up in Secret Wars and whatnot. And if he does, like, we're definitely not going to get a continuation with this Vanessa thing, like they're not going to have time for that in Secret Wars. So I don't know. It felt like this is rounding it back to my spoiler-free thoughts. It felt like Deadpool was such an afterthought in this, which is so strange to me. Like, this is his own movie. I get that Hugh took center stage, and I think rightfully so, but still, we could have done a bit more for Deadpool in my mind. I don't know.
I also think, why even have them break up? Why even do any of the him and her on bad terms? Which is another reason why maybe I looked at the first like 20 minutes sourly, or maybe like that's another reason why like I look at the movie as it kind of being a mess. Because obviously we saw in the first and second movie, I mean, he opens it and says, this one's a love story. All right, this one's a movie about family. He doesn't even do it in this one. And it's just like, I get it's a buddy cop. I get, Hugh's in this and it's a pretty big deal, but it's a Deadpool movie. Like, stick to what you've done in the past. And if you're not gonna not harp on it, but if you're not gonna make that more of a point of contention for the movie of him and Vanessa breaking up, just have it be like Wolverine says, or like Paradox says, him just having an existential crisis. Like, he could have wanted to do more after finding his family, or just been like, yeah, I have this family now, I want to protect them, and go try and be an Avenger, or go try and make your life mean something. And just have him deal with all of that internally if you're going to give Vanessa 5 minutes of screen time, And so that's another thing that I took, that I had problem with, is that it kind of seems like, one, they didn't really know what they wanted to center Deadpool's conflicts over in this movie, and two, he wasn't even like I said, he was so much of an afterthought that it didn't look like they put any thought into what they wanted his conflict to center this movie. It was more like they did all that work with Hugh and Wolverine, and spent a little bit more time perfecting that than they did anything with Deadpool. And they still, even then, like, they still both got like their one moment, and both of those moments were with Cassandra Nova, which is cool, I guess. It's fine if you're juggling both characters of this status in a movie like this, but I don't know. I guess I was just looking at this more of, it's a Deadpool movie, so let's focus a little bit more on what we've established in the past two movies, or just don't even have the breakup be a part of the story, or just don't even have them break up. I don't know.
I think I agree with like everything that's been said, that either they could have just like gotten rid of it, or they could have focused on it more because the setup was there. So yeah, I think I just agree on all of that. Something that I want to specifically add about Deadpool's character is kind of the way that he uses his humor and just his grotesqueness to kind of like almost mask his emotions that he's going through. There was a couple scenes where like you can tell that he's feeling certain emotions, but he always like uses humor to almost like try to distract himself to like get rid of it. Like the scene where they're in the car, and I think it's like when it's broken down or whatever, and I forget what's being said, but like when Wolverine's like, one more word, give me one more word. And for some reason, like in that moment, like even though like Deadpool is basically expressionless and he's not actually saying anything yet, like I can feel his emotions that he's going through in that moment. And like little subtle things like that, but then just like the way that he expresses himself, just like I do find it interesting in that way. It's hard to like put words to it, but like certain moments where it's like, I'm feeling this, but I don't necessarily know why I'm feeling it, because it's not like it's being like properly explained by him. So yeah, but I also think, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say, just add on, because you had just reminded me one, a point like that I felt, which the audience, like my theater laughed at, but I didn't really see it as like a funny thing. It was whenever Hugh, I mean, dude, puts on a performance of a lifetime. This man is such a good fucking actor. He's a phenomenal actor. And this scene kind of gave me flashbacks to his car scene with Jake Gyllenhaal in Prisoners, where he's just, I knew
he was going to say Prisoners,
where he's just like grilling Deadpool. And oh my God, like just that little bit of dialogue and the emotion that he puts into it was so good. And afterwards, like he tells he says, maybe God's biggest joke is that you can't fucking die.
But that's on all of us.
Yeah. And then like it's such a hard-hitting scene, especially for Wade and especially for the end of the movie. And their like sacrifice. And yeah, Wade makes a joke, but I think for not for once, but one of the few times in his three movies we've seen him get serious is whenever he says, I'm gonna fight you now. Yeah. And everyone laughed, but I was like, I don't know, I didn't really think it was funny. I thought it was like, holy shit, he's hurt. He's hurt by that. Yeah, like that hit him hard. And it's another one of those things where it's like, yeah, he expresses it in a joking way, but you can tell deep down that he's trying hard to use the humor to cover it up, but it's not working that well this time around. And yeah, everyone laughed, and I was just sitting there like, holy shit, that was a really freaking good piece of movie. And then obviously what followed after that. But yeah, Ben, I just wanted to touch on that in terms of what you were speaking of.
Yeah. All right, moving on a little bit, cutting forward.
Well, Ben, did you have anything after that you were going to say? I think I had cut you off.
Nothing too important. We can move on.
Sorry.
Damn no, right, all good.
Oh, damn right. Nothing Ben says. That's right. But Wade and Logan get away from Cassandra after Johnny dies. They take this weird rocket thing and fly far away. And then we skip to this scene where they're driving in the Honda Odyssey after meeting Nice Pool. And Wade can't let the dog go, and he tries to run away. I thought that was funny. Tries to run away, and then he's like, "Oh, the corn was too thick. It was too thick, honey." It was
one of the best like ongoing gags of the movie.
Yeah, I also love towards the end when Wade's using Nice Pool as a shield, and then they stop in the middle.
Yeah.
He's like, "Why are we stopping?" He's like, I don't know. And then afterwards, when Logan just walks across with the dog, like just totally fine. But anyway, we cut to them in the Honda Odyssey, and then we find out this is where we get to the scene with Wade, or not Wade, that Aiden was just mentioning. Really great scene, truthfully, and it was a really great fight scene as well. And I love that they just they fought each other until they fell asleep. I thought that was funny. And then they are brought to a hideout where we meet our final, I believe, other than all the Deadpools, our final cameos of the movie, all 4 of them. And I honestly thought it was such a badass scene too. The music and everything, like it was like overdone maybe a little bit, but like I still thought it was super cool.
It was self-aware.
Yeah, it was super like watching Elektra walk out and Blade and Remy LeBeau, Gambit.
Oh, my king.
Dude, seriously, dude. Wait, have both you guys watched X-Men 97 or no?
Dude, I still have to finish that
seen all
back
of them.
half, but yes, I've gotten that halfway.
Oh, but
I got up until the
You did,
after that, I mean, as you can see,
and
like,
Ben, that's why you say there's been more duds than there have been ups of the MCU, because you haven't watched X-Men 97. You piss me off, brother. All right,
peak Marvel, honestly, dude.
Truly, it's phenomenal. But there's
So
a lot
when do I get to defend these cameos?
Right now, go for it.
That's what I was gonna say. There's a lot of jokes in this scene, yada yada yada, a lot of back and forth. But these cameos, I guess my take on it, and then Ben can go. I thought they were great. I didn't think that they all served a purpose, and I loved the world building around them. They were a little bit of an exposition dump as well, but they stuck around more, and they were a part of the actual like beginning of the third act. I would say not the actual end, like the full third act, but they served a really great purpose, and I thought the comedy with them was very well done, as well as, I mean, I think one that I wanted maybe a little bit more of, even though we got like a whole separate scene with her and him, was Laura. I would have loved a little bit more with Laura. I feel like especially with her fighting, I wanted to see her fight, man. And we saw a little bit of it, sure, but it was more of like a whole group setting. The whole cinematography of like that whole final fight, I didn't love. I did love the times where they focused on one specific character. Like Gambit's whole stuff was awesome, I thought, and like that video is going around Twitter right now. But and even Blade, Elektra, a little bit less so. I haven't seen her movie though, so I can't really speak, or I haven't seen the original Daredevil movie either. But I just didn't have much care for her, but I still thought it was cool that she was here. But it also makes sense too. I should have seen that coming, because like Sean Levy made that Atom Project movie, and she was in that, right? And
yeah, she was.
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah.
Sean Levy, I've noticed he works with a lot of like Channing Tatum was in Free Guy, and he's here too as Gambit.
Wow,
all the stars kind of aligned.
Chris Evans was also in Free Guy.
Yeah. Chris Evans was in Free. Yeah, a lot of the stars aligned for this movie, truthfully. But yeah, Ben, what are your wonderful thoughts on these cameos and why they're so much better than Multiverse of Madness?
So I think, first of all, there's the obvious thing of, if you take away any sort of story elements or significance or anything like that, these are just like really good picks for cameos. Because like even with Multiverse of Madness, there was a couple of cool ones, but there was also a couple that I just like, they didn't do anything for me. Like some of the variants, I'm like, I just do not care about this character. Whereas at least for these, I'm like, this is really cool that an actor is returning to play a character. As for like my how predictable they were, I think Elektra was the one that I like was pretty certain about going into it. I think it had even been rumored like months before that she would be returning. At least like that's one of the ones that I remembered. And then obviously we saw Laura in the final trailer like a week before the movie, which we didn't like, but turns out it's because she wanted to be at the premiere and you know not have to fully hide, which I understand.
I just think it's so sweet that she wanted to share it with Hugh one more time, and Feige was like, all right, fine, I guess. I just think that's like really wholesome. So
yeah, I mean, I think it was an obvious inclusion. It's like how do you bring Hugh back and not at least have her a little bit? And I'm glad. Just like I guess I'll touch on her first. Like her involvement in the story was really obvious because she was one of the main driving factors that pushed Hugh in a positive direction to actually be involved and be more on board with this common goal. And I think ultimately really pushed him to, you know, be willing to make that sacrifice in the finale with Deadpool. Like he was willing to do that. And I think that she was actually one of the biggest reasons that he was driven to do that. Just with her, you know, telling him about the Logan that she knew and some of her specific comments that really got to him. And, you know, that was kind of a big turning point for him because honestly, his interaction with Deadpool was not making him want to do any of this. Like Deadpool is the type of person to push you away from this goal and then, you know, be mad because he needs you. And so like, I think she was like very crucial to Logan's character. And you could argue that she wasn't as much of a cameo because, you know, last time we saw Hugh, we saw her as well. But, you know, if we're kind of grouping them all together, then, you know, that's what I would say for her involvement. And then the other characters are kind of lumped together, I would say, when it comes to their involvement, or maybe less so Channing Tatum, less so with Gambit, but more so with Blade and Elektra, because the purpose that they served, in my opinion, in the story was they kind of brought this history of how their universes have failed and why they're now stuck in the void. And so like the conversations that they're able to have about, you know, why they want to help Deadpool and Wolverine in order to try and save his universe, like that's an actual purpose. Like that's a reason for them to be there, is like they're stuck in the void and they need more help. They have some characters whose universes have ended and they can't do anything about it, but they're heroes, so they're going to help. That to me is a good purpose. Like that is good enough reasoning, and at least it's a reason at all for them to be there. And sure, like there's not a ton of depth to that, and they're not there for a ton of time, but I was much happier with their purpose than, you know, Multiverse of Madness, if we're still comparing that. So that to me is like the reason why they stick out, on top of just like I was shocked to see Blade, and then I was hyped that Channing Tatum was there because I didn't expect that to be the case, but like I know the history behind that, and so I'm super happy that, you know, he got that chance, because I don't know that would have really happened otherwise. So that's my defense. That's my take. There you go.
So I'll jump real quick. First, I'll give my thoughts on the cameos. Elektra, yeah, that was cool. My theater was just like, oh, okay, that's really cool. She's here. And then, I mean, they absolutely loudest pop of the night went to Blade, obviously. I thought that was really cool. I, for one, screamed the most when I just saw that card flying in. I was like, it was just a mixture of, oh my God, we're going to see Gambit, and holy shit, I never expected to see Gambit. Like, I'm just so glad I went into this without having anything spoiled, because again, never in a million years would I have expected. I never would have thought they would have brought Gambit, especially not a comic accurate Channing Tatum Gambit. And so I was just over the moon. Like I literally was screaming like so loud, but you could barely hear me over everyone else because it was just such a thunderous reaction to him. And so amazing cameos. My thing with the cameos is, if I'm comparing it and defending my like Multiverse of Madness stuff, Are these cameos better than Multiverse of Madness? Leaps and bounds. Leaps and bounds better than Multiverse of Madness. I mean, the characters, the actors that are playing the characters, I mean, they got them beat. My thing was a lot of people saying that this is what Multiverse of Madness should have been. Whereas I'm thinking more in terms of a movie. I'm thinking more in terms of movie structure. I'm defending Multiverse of Madness as a movie compared to Deadpool and Wolverine as a movie, which is why I think I don't really have anything to debate with Ben. I think we're both like kind of on the same playing field. This is just more me yapping just to yap. Whereas I just think that the structure, the roles that the cameos were playing, I think was a lot better. Not a lot, maybe a little bit better than in Multiverse of Madness than here, just because of how strong the villain was, the motives of the villain. I think Wanda has Cassandra beat. I think Wanda's motives have Cassandra's motives beat. I don't even think Cassandra should have been a villain because, like, towards the end of the movie, she lets them go and then just comes right back, which is a choice. Whereas Wanda is hell bent trying to find her kids. She's messing up like the multiverse. She's messing up these universes. And the Illuminati has to step in, which is where we get to see a lot of these cool characters that we've never seen before in the MCU. Some characters that we've never seen before, period. A lot of cool characters or a lot of cool actors playing these characters. And then having them serve their purpose by being slain by Wanda and then get back to telling the real story of the Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and continuing that story of Strange and Wanda and all the chaos Wanda's unleashing, Strange having to fix it. And then, just in terms of a movie, I think Multiverse of Madness did their cameo stuff a little bit better. Obviously, in terms of the better cameos, I think Deadpool and Wolverine has them beat, as I stated. Just in terms of movie making aspects and the structure of the story that they were trying to tell, I think Multiverse of Madness has them beat on that end. So when people say this is what Multiverse of Madness should have been, it's like, brother, they kind of did it a little bit better. They just didn't have strong cameos. They just didn't have as strong cameos and, didn't get as big of a pop. So that's all I meant.
Nobody cares about Captain Carter,
I want to specifically say to that I wouldn't say that this is what Multiverse of Madness should have been. I don't think either of these are what Multiverse of Madness should have been. Multiverse of Madness should have been a lot crazier than both of these, in my opinion. But I still think we disagree on, like, I wasn't saying the cameos were better specifically in the case of like the characters or the actors playing them. I don't think we disagree on that. But I will disagree about like the story significance, because I felt like all of these characters had a direct impact on our heroes and pushing them forward on their journey. And I didn't feel that with Multiverse of Madness, mainly because I feel like with Multiverse of Madness, it's like you could have brought in a number of different characters or heroes as variants and just had them killed off. And that doesn't change the significance of them being there. Whereas like in the case of Deadpool and Wolverine, it was like the backstory of these characters having universes that have failed and them, having a more common goal with our heroes. I don't feel like, at least for me, I can't tie that as much together with like the cameos tied into our hero's journey and like where things are going. I don't see the thread as much in Multiverse of Madness as I do with Deadpool. But I mean, maybe I'd rewatch them and feel differently, but that's just like right now, that's how I feel.
That's fair enough. I mean, that's a fair take.
Only thing I would say to that is like, I mean, I feel like in Multiverse of Madness, the Illuminati was trying to stop the multiverse to a degree from being destroyed. That's why they killed their universe's Doctor Strange, because he was meddling with things that would destroy the multiverse. granted, they were too ignorant to listen to our Doctor Strange in trying to tell them that Wanda is going to destroy the multiverse with when she gets this girl's powers. But that's I would say that like they had like-minded goals in that aspect. But I do think that it is. I think you're correct, Ben, in saying that like it's a stronger connection between in Deadpool and Wolverine between those cameos and what they went through and what Wade is trying to prevent.
And it was also like in Multiverse of Madness, it was non-consequential. Like whatever their goal was, it didn't matter. They got killed off. It's not like they stopped Wanda, and it's not like they helped Doctor Strange. Whereas in Deadpool and Wolverine, our characters were an integral part to, them, fighting back against Cassandra Nova and moving forward on their journey. Like that's, but at some point it's like, there's a bunch of different ways you could look at it and arrive at different conclusions. But yeah,
I like I said, I do think it's a fair take. And I even agree with what Charlie said about how the Illuminati ties into our Doctor Strange, how they were made an example by Wanda, which only strengthened her as a villain, which makes Doctor Strange and Chavez's journey that much more challenging, but also that much more rewarding whenever they do put an end to her terror. Again, it's just perspective up to whose perspective and whatnot. But I do think you make a very fair point. I do agree with Gambit, Blade, and Elektra and X-23 pertaining more to the hero's journey, giving them that push and getting them to that next level. Whereas the Illuminati kind of push the hero and the villain's journey in different ways. And so it's just all up to whoever's watching it.
Yeah. But to continue, Laura shows up, and then we get the wonderful scene of because Wolverine's like, you guys are crazy after they make their plan to go attack Cassandra Cain. Also, Deadpool says in this scene, "Let this man cook," which is crazy. But then there's a night. I love this scene as well. Nighttime at the fire. Wolverine is drinking himself into oblivion, and Laura comes up and he starts telling the story of what happened in his universe. And I love that he tells it a little bit, and then she's like, "I can make up the rest. I can guess the rest." And he's like, "No, I need to say it. I need to." Which, it could just like obviously just from a filmmaking perspective, like they're just like, "Oh no, we need to get this out somehow," rather than him being so coy about it. But I can't remember if we talked about this at all, but I had like some issues with the way Logan, like what happened in his universe. Like he blames himself because he went to go drink and then humans came and killed the X-Men, right? But like what like I feel like you blame yourself for that, sure, but then what exactly makes you become a recluse after that? He said he killed some people. And why does the rest of the world hate him is what I guess is what I'm trying to understand. Because that bar that he was at, the guy said he's not welcome here. And on a surface level, you could just say because he's a mutant and humans don't like mutants. But he says that he killed some people. And I don't know if that, like, I'm assuming if the humans came and killed the X-Men, they came to the X-Mansion, right? And murdered them all. So then if he came back and killed people, wouldn't he have just killed the people that killed the X-Men? I don't know. Like,
they talked about this in the film. Recall. Yeah, because like that point was specifically brought up, but he basically said that like within his rage and within kind of the self-doubt that he was feeling and how angry he was with himself for feeling like he let that happen, that his rage took him too far and he was killing beyond what was just for what people had done. I don't remember like specifically, but basically, yeah, he did seek revenge, but then he also let revenge control him.
So he went off and killed other humans, maybe? Maybe he left the X-Mansion and just decided to kill humans.
Yeah, I don't remember what the exact wording was, but that I remember that was specifically mentioned.
Okay, fair enough. I do love the line, and unfortunately, it was in the final trailer, where he says that I'm not the guy for this. Like I'm not the right guy. And this is the same X-23, correct? Like, are we all in
Yeah.
agreement, or is this an alternate?
Well,
Is this a variant of her?
I was under the impression it was the same.
Right. Because
But
at
I
the
mean,
end,
it is also the only one we've ever seen.
yeah, at the end of the movie, when they're like, "Hey, we had some friends help us. Can you send them back to their universe?" She's then at the table with them, but none of the
Yeah.
other
Well,
people are.
because Deadpool's universe is Logan's universe.
So that's
She
why.
would
So it is the same one. That's why I'm trying to like understand.
well, because if Deadpool and Logan are in, yeah, it would make sense why then if she's sent back to the universe, she's sent back with Deadpool because that is Logan's universe.
Okay, so that is the one from Logan then. So she is
Yeah.
the one from Logan. Okay, I see some people talking about how it's a plot hole that she's in the void, which like I don't think that that's a plot hole. We just don't know what she might have done to end up in the void. Like she,
Yeah.
same as Loki, she could have been brought in for doing something that she wasn't supposed to do, kind of thing. So, but yeah, because that wouldn't make if it was a different one, then there'd be two X-23s in that universe. So after getting brought back.
It's 10,005. They call it 10005.
10005.
That's what they call it. Yeah, in the movie, 10005 is the universe of the of Logan and Deadpool.
Okay, bunch of weirdos over there. But I do love the line where he's like, I'm not the right guy for this," and she says, "You were never the right guy until you were," which is true. He always in my rewatch, he's always like, "Nah, I'm not the guy for this." So like in X-Men Origins and in the Wolverine, he's like, "I'm not. You got the wrong guy." But then we get an awesome shot of them riding the Honda Odyssey over to Cassandra Nova's compound, and I love the line of Blade's like, "There's only one blade. There's ever only going to be one blade." And then Deadpool turns to the camera. I thought that was awesome.
Which
Also,
I mean, that could be taken two different ways. It could be like, yeah, he's right. There will ever because this movie's not going to be fucking made, or he looks like a fool right now because Blade's going to be coming here soon. So take that as you will.
I also love another slow-mo shot watching Logan get out of the back, the trunk of the van. I thought that was cool, and the hero shot of them all lining up. I thought that was really nice. And a somewhat little bit of a great scene with Cassandra Nova in involving herself in Logan's mind, and we see that little, I assume graveyard for the X-Men maybe, and she's trying to convince him that she can make his pain go away or whatever the hell she said. I need to rewatch this movie. And then I love how they had the small little dilemma of saving her or not when they put the helmet on her, and then Pyro comes up and shoots her. And then they end up saving her. And this is where she kind of falls off a cliff for me. As far as a villain, like she gets shot, they save her life. She ends up helping them get out, which is all well and cool. And then I was like, okay, so now we're transitioning. Paradox is going to be the main guy we got to take down now. But then she gets pissed because Paradox and her had a deal, and then she leaves to go. Then because the TVA went back on their deal with her, she decides she's going to destroy the entire multiverse with this machine. Yeah. And it's very much like Thanos Infinity War to Thanos Endgame, where like I thought where his motivations in Infinity War are much stronger than his motivations in Endgame. Just this time, instead of wiping out half the universe, I'm just going to destroy this universe as a whole and make it like that's completely antithetical to his entire thought process in Infinity War. Not that this is, it's not on the same level or as well thought out as that in this movie, which is another mark against the villain in my mind, but just like, why do you have to destroy the entire multiverse just so you can supposedly thrive in the void? Like that's not. It just seems nonsensical to me.
I think she says she wanted to make, which I mean, this could be exactly what you're saying. So feel free to be like, yeah, I know. But she wanted to destroy it to make basically everything the void so that she can run everything like in the whole universe. so that she could basically play God.
Sure.
Whereas right now she could only play God of the Void because Paradox let her, but it turns out that Paradox was like trying to basically one up her, and she didn't like that. So she wanted to make the whole entire universe the Void, which
Sure.
is still, I mean, it's like, yeah,
Just
like sure,
kill
yeah,
Paradox. Yeah, just kill Paradox
yeah.
then if that's the case.
She does fall off big time towards the end, which I feel like is one, just a vice to get the Deadpool core in there, and two, oh, we need someone to man this crazy machine so that they can have their heroic sacrifice.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know,
I think if I could defend it a little bit, because I do agree, but there's been like I saw a lot of people and even people within my group saying, you know, she was the villain and then all of a sudden she helped them and then she immediately went back to being evil. And the way that I more took it, and I still think, you know, they took some missteps with her, was she's still evil the whole time, but they spared her life, so she spared them,
Help them. Yeah.
you know, still being evil. And then it's not like she goes and turns around and tries to hurt them. You know, she never once after that is like attacking. I mean, she has the Deadpool core to hold them back, but it's never like oh, I have something against specifically Wade and Logan. It's more so this whole control dynamic, which I mean, is what she wanted the entirety of the movie. Like she has that within the Void, and then she wants to expand that, and you know, she learns about what that could look like. And I think Paradox even earlier on makes a comment about, you know, her. Hopefully, she doesn't realize that she's trapped in the Void, or some. There's something mentioned like that about almost that she doesn't know. Like she thinks she has everything that she can, you know, and she's in control of everything, but there's a lot that she still doesn't know. And so just as like a little bit in defense of at least her motive, I can see some of where it actually makes sense, but I don't think it was the most like compelling thing. And it did definitely feel like an excuse for the rest of the movie to happen in a very like specific way. Like we want Deadpool core, so here's where we're going. We want this moment with Ryan and Hugh, so here's where we're going. I don't think it was fully justified, but some of the critique, like to the full extent that people have been saying, I don't think is justified either.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And then yes, she comes into Paradox and takes over his whole thing, takes over the machine, and then I do love the visual through line as with like the stringy stuff going on from Loki season 2 and carry it over here. I love the visual symmetry. I love that. And of course, they have to fight through in a really cool fight scene. I love the camera work here, especially Wade and Logan have to fight through the entire Deadpool core because they're a bunch of mean, nasty bitches. And I'll also kind of love because there was so much speculation about who's playing which Deadpool, yada, yada, yada. And I love how they just don't even like take time for that at all. And like there's people playing them, sure, and if you care enough, like you can find out. But I love how it's just kind of just like they're just Deadpools. Not they don't need to be a person. Like we don't need to have so many people showcased in this movie. And it did turn out to be Blake Lively, Ladypool. So and we already mentioned how we love the scene with the dog thing, and I do love also how he's like, now I have the gold-plated Desert Eagles. But again, the really cool fight scene. Then finally, Hugh Jackman for the very first time puts on the cowl. That got a great pop from my theater and myself included. Fantastic. I think it looks good too. There's discussion online about the white eyes and everything like that, but honestly, it worked for me. I didn't think it was too terrible. There's conversations about maybe if it took away from Hugh's performance, like when they're having that emotional moment where he's like, "No, I'm going to go in there. No, I'm going to go in there," kind of thing. But honestly, I didn't mind it. then we cut down to them finding out, oh yeah, one of you guys are gonna have to die. Oh, also I want to say I love the moment of them jumping out of the bus. Like that was a cool hero moment. And of course, then it's like, in the past, I think I would have been, oh, that's very MCU. Like it's like an epic moment. And they ruin it with a joke or something, like with Deadpool falling down. But it's on brand. It's on brand. So I appreciate it. The CGI for Logan at that moment, though, really bad. Like he looked like he genuinely looks like a video game character, just doing like a
idle animation.
Yeah. I was gonna say the TikTok. What was that trend from last summer or 2 summers ago? Like the AI people or whatever.
Exactly.
He just looked like he was doing that stupid thing. But they go down there, find out that whoever holds the antimatter and the just the matter, I guess, together are going to be destroyed, no matter if you have a healing factor or not. And they go down there. Wade does a fake out. He lets Logan think he's going to do it, and he actually goes out there and does it. And then Wade can't reach, and they're about to run out of time. And then Logan runs up. There's another great scene. Grabs his hand. Logan still can't quite reach. Sticks out the claws, and then he can reach. I thought that was cool too. But then his shirt immediately just gets eviscerated, and then his Hugh Jackman's, I don't even know how old he is, but like 50-plus-year-old abs get shown, and then they're just, and he still looks fantastic. Yep, still looks fantastic. And Wade looks at it and nods and acknowledges, like, oh yeah, that's really nice looking. And I also love the scene when Hunter B-15 shows up and starts about to reprimand Paradox, and then he's like, "Oh, these heroes went in and they died for us." And then Wade, I forget what Wade says exactly. Oh no, he said he has risen or something like that. Another like God joke.
He is risen, baby girl.
Yeah, he is risen, baby girl. Fuck. And then the song that plays too, I love. I don't know the name of the song, but it's a classic. I love it.
Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls. I think that's the Goo Goo Dolls. Dude, literally one of the best songs ever.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know. I thought it was called something else. But
yeah, by the Goo
no,
Goo
it's fantastic.
amazing. I think that is like literally my favorite scene in the entire movie. Like, it's
yeah, the slow motion walk
good.
too. It's so.
And
yeah,
I don't want the world.
Yeah.
So it's good, man.
Then they save the day, and here's an interesting tidbit. Apparently, whatever they did stopped Wade's universe from decaying slowly. So and there was no like clear idea as to what it was that stopped that. I don't know if it's because they got another version of an anchor being to be in that. I'm sure we're gonna get, again. It goes back to what I said. There's too many questions about anchor beings, so I'm sure that stuff's going to get answered. That's a big one that I feel like has to get answered eventually. It is slightly annoying that it isn't answered in this movie, because it's just like, oh, the whole thing that we've been fighting for in this entire just gets resolved, and we don't know why it's resolved. A little bit annoying to me, but whatever. It's up to interpretation, I guess.
Can I add to that specific thing real quick?
For sure. No, I want you guys to chime in whenever.
I think like with that specifically, the way that I take it, at least, is that the thing that they did was they were able to bring a non-anchor being, Logan, who, in his universe is not a hero at all,
sure,
and basically turn him into a hero. And I don't know if replace the anchor being is a way to view it or something like that, but but I think the reason it wasn't explained is because all of it happened so fast in the end there, where I think it was Logan, making that heroic sacrifice. I think that is the moment. And of course that's not confirmed, but like, that's what makes most sense to me. And, if the TVA hasn't experienced this before, which is kind of what they alluded to, then it's kind of like we need to figure out what just happened, but they're letting Logan stay in this universe. So, I think it definitely has something to do with that. They just didn't explicitly state anything about that. Sure. So like, that would be my explanation, and that's what I think happened. But I do think that we'll get a more clear answer on that, because who knows what that could mean for, the future of whatever, characters, anchor beings. It could all tie together, and we just don't know. yet like fully how it makes sense.
Yeah. Only thing I would say, I guess, is because from my understanding, and Paradox could be wrong because Paradox is an idiot we've seen throughout this movie, but he very much made it seem like that's not how it works. Like replacing an anchor being with another. But again, you're not again, but what you're saying about him becoming a hero now, and just like the anchor being, which he is a variant of in that was in this universe, becoming a hero like him might have been the change. But I guess I just kind of thought from Paradox's wording that no matter what, you cannot, that's not how anchor beings work. You can't just find a variant of an anchor being and put them in the place of an anchor being and then have it save that universe. But Paradox could be wrong. Like I said, could be an idiot as far as the TVA is concerned. But
because Paradox also said that Deadpool did something that had not been done before. So this could be like.
Did he say it at the end? Did he say that at the end? I don't remember that.
Okay. Yeah, that's basically what they were saying is, the timelines are restored, your universe is saved. And then he said something about like, your job here might not be done yet.
Yeah.
Something along the lines of that.
100B15 did say that, yeah.
Yeah, because it was basically like, you just did something that we haven't seen before. And so that's where I think it ties in. But, that's all speculation.
Fair enough, yeah. But yeah, they have that conversation with B15 and they tell her, hey, we had some people help us. Can you get them back to their own universes? And then we cut to them sitting down, eat. Funny line, he's like, hey, you want to get shawarma? Yeah, let's eat shawarma. Fun fact, the Avengers actually invented shawarma. But they sit down and eat a little bit of shawarma. They have a conversation about where things are going to lead for them and kind of a meta commentary. Wade's like, are we going to see you again? And he's like, probably not. And starts walking away.
Yeah.
And then stops him, invites him to dinner. And that's when we have the line that I already mentioned, where he tells Vanessa that he did it for her. And we get the awesome ending shot of the film with the camera panning back. And we get both of their masks just sitting there on the table. I thought it was fantastic. But yeah, and then during the credits, we get a cool like little goodbye to the Fox universe, which I thought was nice. A nice little video.
Tearing up, man.
Yeah,
it was emotional.
That was a good little video.
I turned to Brandon and I was like, what are we going to do in like 10, 20 years or whatever when we get this scene, but for the MCU?
For the MCU.
Oh my God. Geez. And we're like 30 years old. Oh my gosh, dude. I am going to be a wreck. That'll be very, very sad.
And then we get the wonderful joke with as the end credit scene with Johnny and everything that he said about Cassandra. And that is Deadpool and Wolverine. This conversation has not changed much for me as far as like my ranking of the movie. I will say, not that that's not what we set out here to do or anything, but I think again, this movie, I think for a certain section of the MCU, fans of the MCU, this is what they needed. They're back on board. I think a lot of them. I can't tell you how many we're back tweets I've seen, but sure, that happens a lot of the time. There's a lot, like I've mentioned in our last episode, a lot of up and down when it comes to the MCU and their fandom. So who knows where we'll be with Captain America: Brave New World, which after, like I mentioned, also those reshoots might not fare so well for them and the story that they unfold there. But yeah, let's. I don't think that we are gonna do the character game, right? We're not gonna do that.
Oh, I'm not prepared.
Yeah, probably not.
Hey, but I will be prepared next time. No,
I guess any closing thoughts on the movie that you guys might not have mentioned throughout this video.
I think I pretty much touched everything that I wanted to. Again, probably my favorite scene in the movie was the walking out to Iris. I thought it was such a good scene. It's so phenomenal. Soundtrack was great. I've pretty much said my piece. Really good movie. Very, very good movie. Really fine addition to the MCU. Did exactly what it needed to. And I could not be more happy with what we got out of it and where we're going from here. I think these next couple of years will be very interesting. But I think this is the perfect stepping stone to get everyone to kind of buy in for what's to come the next couple of years. So again, did exactly what it needed to. And I'm super, 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 super excited for Brave New World.
Me too.
I think for me, this conversation didn't change my thoughts on the film, but it did get me like more curious about, you know, where some of these things take us moving forward in future projects, like some of the more grander MCU concepts that we're looking at with the multiverse. But as somebody who was more hesitant, I definitely wouldn't be saying, you know, we're back from this movie. I think I feel the same about the overall state of the MCU. And, you know, on a more project by project basis, that my excitement level kind of changes. But what this movie did do is give me exactly what I wanted. So I wouldn't say we're back as a whole, but I'm very, very pleased with this. And that's saying something. So I'm at least happy about that. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think this will definitely be a movie that, like, when I think of the recent Marvel projects and ones that I would want to revisit on a somewhat consistent basis, this is one that I could see becoming, you know, more of like the rewatchability factor being pretty high with it.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely excited for that aspect of it. And that feels nice to get just something that you want to continue to explore and watch and revisit the jokes and laugh at it again. So I'm just glad that we have that, because I feel like it's been a bit since I've felt that way about a Marvel film.
Yeah. Guardians 3, though. You know, Guardians 3, fantastic. So put some respect on its name, Benjamin. Thank you.
I
and
love
the
Guardians
MCU as a
3.
whole. Okay.
I love
Listen,
Guardians
I get
3.
it. It's no Dune 2. All right. We all love Dune.
Yeah,
all right?
not at all.
But
It's not the
I
best
will
movie of the
say-
year. My gosh. Some people are crazy.
I will say, real quick, a week from today. Well, which actually I don't know. I guess we haven't talked about it. When is this being posted tomorrow, or is this being posted next Thursday? And then Thursday being the
I thought next week,
next Thursday, because that
you know, a little buffer.
yeah, because that's perfect. So tomorrow, if you're listening to this on Thursday, tomorrow, August 9th, I pulled up the schedule right here. I don't know for sure when D23 is going live. It says right here 7 p.m. The Honda Center is when Disney Entertainment is doing their showcase, which it says right here, enjoy the magic of whatever, featuring exclusive looks at the movie, series, and stage shows you love, a glimpse into what you can look forward to, give you a peek behind the curtain at upcoming projects, never before seen footage, surprise announcements, and special guests. That is the Disney Entertainment Showcase, which is Friday, August 9th, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. I think Central, maybe. I'm not sure. I'm sure more news will come out, and we'll have a definitive announcement. That's the only thing I can see for Friday, but I know for sure that they are doing D23 Marvel announcements on Friday. So I'm assuming that maybe that is it. I don't know. I'll send y'all the link so y'all can look at it a little bit more. But right now, I'm going to say Friday, August 9th, D23 at 7 p.m. We will be live here. I'm off that day. I plan on clearing out that schedule or that part of the day if it is 7 p.m. But I will get a definitive answer. We will be live for D23 just in case. I mean, if anything, we'll just be live just to be live here talking, whoever can make it. But on the off chance that we do get some big announcements, which I'm sure we will be here to break it down and to talk about it. And then we will have an episode out the following week, maybe talking about Trap a little bit, maybe even talking again some more about the announcements depending on what they do. So I just wanted to get that out there. August 9th, we will be live here. Just check the channel. When we know a time, we'll have a little upcoming live video
on YouTube.
Yeah, so be sure to check that. Regardless, August 9th. Hammer that into your heads.
Lots of great things to look forward to. We appreciate you guys for watching and listening. If you have listened to this whole thing, you are a gem. You are just one of the best people on the face of this planet, and we love you. Okay? Truthfully.
I'll give you a smooch. Mwah.
Audio listeners, he just kissed the hell out of
Oh
you.
my
You don't even
gosh.
know. No, seriously, thank you guys. We appreciate all. Oh, he gave you a second one. He gave you a second one. We appreciate you guys. Seriously. I know I say it every time, but we're trying to keep to this schedule here. 2 videos in 1 week, 2 podcasts in 1 week.
Unheard of. We're
That's
back.
crazy.
We're so back.
That's crazy.
And a live stream next week. Oh my
We're
god.
back
yeah.
like the
We're so back.
MCU. Like that's crazy.
We're so back.
But we look forward to getting together for you guys and also for us, because we love to talk with each other. As much as we might not like to say it, we all appreciate each other and care about each other. So, but I didn't get invited to Ben's wedding, so it's kind of messed
Okay.
up. But
this bit.
that's whatever. It's neither here nor there. But yes, seriously, if you're on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We'd really appreciate it. Keep up with all of our uploads that we are going to keep fleshing out for you. Benjamin is working on some new Spotify covers for our podcast. It's going to be more of a through line design, I think, for a lot of our older podcast episodes. You might go back and take a look at some of those as well. So we very much appreciate him for doing that. So if you want to go back, and if you're an audio listener, go back and check out those little square pictures. They might look different, might look a little cool, who knows. But knowing Benjamin, they won't. It's I'm just kidding, guys. He sent us a little picture. They all look really good. But yes, we hope you guys have a wonderful day, night, evening, morning, wherever you are, or however you're listening, whenever you're listening or watching. We appreciate you. Adios.
Peace.
Sayonara.